GT Racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rhythm outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Wonderful, wonderful racing we get so many times with this series. Happens time and time again here. Virginia International Raceway, a place where so much goes on, so much is amazing, so much we can go and see time and time again. We are here on the iRacing Esports Network, brought to you with SimSpeed TV presentation for round 8. It's the round just before the Enduros. I'm Jake Sperry, that's Reese Gardner alongside me. And Reese, it's going to be all to play for here today. So much can be determined overall, but Super Split 2 is the first foray.
Exactly, it is. Hello everyone, welcome to the broadcast. We hope you enjoy what racing comes tonight, and as you say, Sperry, it is sure to be spectacular. VIR is a circuit that is historic. It has lots of history behind it, and especially in the real-life racing sphere, but also in sim racing as well. This track has made appearances on Australian touring car schedules for many years, and it continues to turn it up every single time. I can't wait to see how it goes.
Absolutely, and I'm exactly in the same boat with all of it, with drivers getting all of their practices in, looking to get themselves up and ready and going, and hoping that everything's going to work for them as they go around some very interesting corners, such as the fabled Oak Tree Corner, which is still in the memory of those who are racing here on iRacing. As of course, those who do race I, R and L will see that there is no Oak Tree anymore, and there hasn't been for a number of years. So a whole host of ways to get moves done around this place. This is the driver's choice track, the first of two that will be available here today for everybody. And Reese, I think it is no understatement here today as drivers look to get themselves looking around this place, that they have themselves a really good opportunity at the track which everybody quote unquote wanted to go and race at, to go and make that a reality.
Yeah, exactly right. This is the driver's choice round. Drivers of the series voted for this track to be included in the schedule earlier on in the season, and now, with Ruben Goodall sitting at the top of the timesheets in this practice session on a 146.3, it's certainly showing that VIR separating the proverbial men from the boys, but I certainly reckon there's a lot to dissect in this circuit.
Absolutely, and there's so much that you can dissect, that you can get ready. Reese Gardner has had that ability to go and dissect this place and understand what makes this such an amazing issue, an amazing place to go out there and race. So he stood by with the ever-present fact file.
History, challenge, and bravery. That's the deal when you come to this track for round 8 of the Virtual Racing School V8SCOPS for 2020, Virginia International Raceway. VIR is one of the original 3 purpose-built American road courses, along with Watkins Glen and Road America. It emerged in the 1950s as a home for sports car racing in the middle of stock car country. This place has been called America's Nürburgring, and for good reason. There are many treacherous sequences of turns here that offer no forgiveness if you make a mistake. Quite a few are blind on entry, and the natural topography can catch you out with sudden dives into valleys and over the crests of hills. For many sim racers, myself included, just one clean lap around here is an achievement. The first sector is where a lot of battles will be fought. Turn 1, the horseshoe, is one of the prime passing opportunities, but its opening exit means the outside line can be held. This translates to the inside for NASCAR bend and the left hook, where you can also feed one to your rival. It's tempting to mash the right foot out of turn 5, but the track tightens back up for the snake. This small meander needs to be straight-lined, so it's important to get your aim right to start with, otherwise the exit down the following straight will be compromised. Also, if you're still battling from the first few corners, make sure you've got it sorted out before you get to the snake. 2 cars go side by side through here, and at least one of them is going off. The same can be said for the S's, almost flat out, almost going airborne over the prominent crest. This is one of those places where pushing the limit will pay dividends, but again, there's no room for error, and you have to dial it back for the next couple of corners ahead. Drivers have to be careful and precise over South Bend, which falls away right after the apex. Get some understeer or catch the grass after the curb, you got a vast expanse of grass waiting to swallow you up. Oak Tree is the most famous section of the track, named for this oak tree, which unfortunately fell in 2013. The radius of the corner was apparently set by the turning circle of a road grading machine. The approach is fast and crests yet another hill, and you have to keep slowing down while turning. Oak Tree Bend itself is a sharp right-hander that leads on to the long back straight, so it's important to not lock your brakes or run wide, and equally important to avoid wheel spin on the exit. Slipstream City is located on the back straight here, but actually making the pass at the end of it is tricky. Roller Coaster's entry sees you braking through a left-hand kink into a tight right-hand corner. Opportunistic driving could sneak you up the inside here, but it is hard to pull off cleanly. Make sure the rear is stable on the way out, and finally you get to Hogpen, the last corner. The dip is the signal to get back on the power, and the drivers will shift up into 4th before the final apex. If the line is right, you should be able to keep it flat through here, but be wary of the condition of your tyres. If you mess it up on exit, fortunately, it isn't far to pit lane. This is a circuit that the drivers of the series voted for, so you know it's highly regarded amongst veterans of these Australian touring cars. It's nonetheless a place that gives and takes away in equal measure, and it's the last chance for a good points haul before the upcoming Enduros. Who will put their best foot forward at VIR? Well, I threw out my form guide after Motorsports, so your guess is as good as mine.
And there we see just how wonderful everything goes on around this place. But look at this camera shot right now. These drivers are going to be flinging themselves through these S's sections, and they may even get a little bit of airtime as they go on through. I was talking to a lot of drivers earlier on during the week, and they've been talking about, Reese, how they really just have to drive on the wall of the tyre, go full out, full bore through this section, because that's the only way they're going to get the grip through this place.
Yeah, only way indeed. And you look at the curbs there as well. The curbs around this place in iRacing are thin, but they are usable. You can definitely bounce off them. And oh, you see right there, the 024, I believe that was one of the Exto Gaming cars getting some air. And also the RA2 car of Thomas Hins really pushing it hard across that little crest as well. It's amazing the amount of speed that you carry through those sets of corners in just about any kind of race car. But these cars, 1.5 tons, 650 horsepower, locked differential. It's certainly a battle to get them over those S's quickly, but you can do it almost flat out.
Absolutely, and this is one of the key places where we are going to be seeing drivers looking to file into formation, get a good run through here, and maybe attack heading up towards the Oak Tree corner. This is one of the places in the lap where you have to pretty much string it together. There's no ifs, buts, or ands, because even the smallest mistake can really run a driver into a whole world of time loss and trouble here today. But there's a major reason why everybody's here in this Super Split 2 race, and just how close it was to try and qualify for the very top. A few names coming back that maybe hasn't raced in a little while in the top split. But what's going to be key here today is the golden ticket. We talk about it so many times, Reese. When it comes to Super Split 2, one driver gets the unenviable task of having to take the longest race time of anybody else, because they have to do the one-stop race here today, Super Split 2, and then they've now got to do, after they win this race, effectively 2 more stops in a 250k race.
Yeah, it's quite a brutal format, but the reward system is there. You know, if you manage to best all of your competition here in Split 2, you get a chance to race against the big boys who qualified in the top 40 in pre-qualifying. And as you said, it is going to be one mandatory pit stop in this Split 2 race, 20 laps in length, but the main event tonight, we're doing the standard round format of a single 250-kilometer race, and that's going to take somewhere in the vicinity of 90 minutes to complete. Add to that the 45 or so minutes it's going to take this particular race to complete, and yeah, the winning driver is in for a very long night.
Absolutely, and there are a lot of drivers who want to put themselves up near the top. Ruben Goodall is currently the fastest of them all. Kyle George here for United Sim Sports, they're in second position. Practice times, at least at the moment, and hopefully we're going to be seeing just how amazing his times are going to be moving on here. Just about 3 minutes to go before the grid lines itself up, and we'll be thinking about racing action. So, Reese, the point that I'm trying to make here is that these drivers now will be going through their final preparations. They'll be looking at, okay, what do we need to do here? What do we need to do there? Have I got my start all nicely lined up with the line locker? Have I got myself a good run through the opening sections on track? Am I happy with the amount that I can fuel save if a safety car comes out? So many variables, but everyone has a different practice routine.
Yeah, everyone does, and you'll see drivers practicing their pit stops in these sessions as well. It's very important to get your pit stop lined up perfectly, otherwise it can cost you valuable seconds as your virtual pit crew scrambles to reorient themselves to your car. A lot of things that drivers will be doing in the dying minutes of this practice session, but at the end of the day, the green flag will drop momentarily, and they don't have a qualifying session in this one. The grid is set by pre-qualifying times in Split 2, so they won't really have a chance outside of their running in this session to really see how fast they can go.
Over 18 hours worth of pre-qualification times were put in on the board. Some put in a lot more representable laps than others to get here in terms of these times, but nevertheless, we have the 40, and they'll be looking to try and push up and get as much as they possibly can out of these races. A whole host of teams have looked to try and get themselves close, but this is where we see maybe 1 or 2 drivers really come out of the woodworks here over the course of a season in Super Split 2, and then they knock on the door and say they have what it takes to be a top 40, if not even a top 20 driver come the next season. So this is really a great proving ground. Someone who can thrive in this scenario does go on and get good results.
Yeah, exactly right. It's quite a difficult task to be racing in this series at the level that guys in Split 1 do. It does take an awful lot of effort to get there, but these guys have been putting in the hard yards, and I definitely think Split 2 is where you see some of the really committed racers come out and strut their stuff, because it's definitely a bit demoralizing if you want to try and set the fastest time you possibly can and you're not able to break into the top 40. It really speaks to the motivation of a driver that they are still able to get out there and do the best they possibly can. I mean, it's all about not giving up, right? If you manage to finish in P1, you get to drive in Split 1 anyway, so there's no point in throwing in the towel.
Absolutely. Practice, though, has come to an end. So what we'll be able to do for you in the next few moments is take ourselves over to the starting grid and understand where everybody is going to be lining up then for this race overall, this Super Split 2. The best possible place to be for these races is at the front of the field, and we know exactly who is at the very front of the field right now as they get themselves ready. It's Thomas Hinds in the Ra2 racing car, and he will have the Exto Gaming Motorsports machine of Jacob Knight alongside the 024. Surprised to see Lee Ellis here in Super Split 2. He starts from 3rd place in the Trans-Tasman racing machine with Kyle George starting in 4th place. Cam Dance goes from 5th place with Ruben Goodall in 6th, seeing Reese Keane and Scott Gamble there on row number 4. It's the second of the DPR cars here in the field. In 9th position, that's Neil Pearson, and a bit of KRF eye candy for you there, Reese. It's Hayden Veld in 10th.
Certainly, good job from Hayden Veld to put himself up there. The Brian Borg, starting from 11th for Premier Racing Team alongside Christian Smart in the 999. Cameron Dance's teammate Harold Stadler makes it the second of 3 Fitstye Motorsport cars in this field, starting from 13th alongside Aaron Dodd, Misdale and Newell on row 8, with Guy Leach and Kane Hewson on row 9. The top 20 rounded out by Tyler Blackburn and one of Aussie Sim Racing's favourite streamers, Rob Harris.
Absolutely. Now the blackjack position 21st goes to Andrew Mogridge, and if you're playing bingo, 2 little ducks for David Kidmond in 22nd place. Darren McKenzie is the first of the hyperdrive cars in 23rd. Brenton O'Brien in 24th, team boss of ERT, Evolution Racing Team. The Wheelie Beams Mayhem Republic car of Shane Evans starts 25th with Vincent Skilbeck 26th. Then you've got Henry King of ANZ Motorsports and Craig Anspatch in the tanked SRT machine. Beautiful livery, starting in 28th. Benjamin Smith starts 29th, and Adam Barnard goes from 30th.
Final 7 cars in this field. Jeff Rahali puts his OPR machine in 31st. Matthew Deere starting from 32nd. Todd Parks and Stuart Crawford on the 17th row, with Josh Morris making it another hyperdrive car here in Split 2 alongside JP Simshed's Robert Crisdale. The field is rounded out by Simon Mazzomo, who only put 4 laps in pre-qualifying to get into this field. He's starting right from the back, and he's been getting faster, but it's going to be tough for him starting from there.
Absolutely, and this is going to be a long slog, a long haul. You can see just how many vehicles all just run themselves back. A good 17 rows of battling action. That small kink right off of the line often makes life a little bit difficult for those maybe on the outside, and there has been a tendency, especially over the last season, to see incident on the start-finish line around this place. So it's a very interesting run towards turn number 1. A lot of drivers want to try and go deep at a hairpin, but of course this place is effectively a privately owned circuit in some respects, so it's very tough. There's no runoff areas. It's all grass to deal with if things go wrong. 20 laps, 1 pit stop required, and let's get ourselves ready for racing action then. The green flag will come along, and let's get ourselves going then. It's a good start from Thomas Hinds, but Lee Ellis gets the best run out of all the top 3 and looking to try and get to the inside immediately here. Hinsey covers it off hard there, but there's Jacob Knight on the outside. Nothing he can do. That's Lee Ellis just getting to the outside. Look at Cam Dance down the inside. He's gone around. Hinsey with contact. Ellis takes the lead, so immediately issues there on the cold tyres.
Yeah, great stuff, though, from Lee Ellis to scythe his way in between Jacob Knight and Thomas Hinds. Hinsey's having a bit of trouble getting those tyres up to temperature, currently defending against Kyle George into the left hook. He's going to have the inside line through turns 5 and 5A, and George has to back out of it.
He absolutely does, and now loses another place because that's the DPR car stealing in position. Reese Keen's had a great start here today and is doing well. You can see how they battle through the snake and now up through this wonderful serpentine. The top 2 breaking away at the moment, and Thomas Hinds just about holding on to that 3rd place. But you can't give anybody any stage of time as they go on through, and aside from a couple of little hairy moments here and there, nothing really to speak of that's gone horribly wrong. Everybody nicely on circuit and going along. Jacob Knight in the Exto Gaming car now. This long back stretch comes along towards the roller coaster section, and this is the prime place to get anything done. You can see tucked up underneath, looking to go to the outside, turned inside to get this move done, and Lee Ellis is not going to have much to argue against this one here, because that is the race lead now for Exto Gaming's Jacob Knight.
Oh, no. As soon as you say that, Ellis spinning Jacob Knight around, and Knight is going to go all the way to the back of the field as there is a bit more of a melee going on here. I'm seeing a Fitstye car off. I'm seeing God knows what else. This is crazy at the moment.
Jacob Knight, pillar to post at the moment. There's a Team Hyperdrive car off in the background. I think we need to dissect this one. A Motum Simulation replay. It's Kane Hewson, a Max Bance winner, Kane Hewson, in all sorts of trouble. So that's not going to be useful for him. Motum Simulation replay. So Jacob Knight gets the move done here, heading over towards this roller coaster section. But Lee Ellis a little bit later on the brakes, looking for the inside. And ultimately, Knight is slower when he gets to that section. Spun around, race control would be called. And there, oh, there's a huge one in the background. That's a completely separate incident. Houston coming together with one of the simrigs.com DPR cars.
Yeah, it was Daniel Misdale and Harold Stadler, and the Fitzstein car got caught up in that as well. So Misdale missing his rear wing now. We'll have a look at it from Kane Houston's perspective. Oh, that's what happened. Stadler actually tapped him, and then he concertinaed into Misdale in front.
And those tyres come up so quickly, and it's all downhill from there. It's so difficult to not get caught up with anything that does happen, as hopefully we go back to live, and we do here with Thomas Hinz at the moment in third position, well now second position at the moment. I would expect Lee Ellis here to get a drive-through penalty for that incident, so that would put Thomas Hinz back in the race lead overall here for this one right now. So Lee Ellis here, a bit of damage as well on the side. You can see all the scrapings there that have gone on through, so this has not been a good start at the front of the field. Hinzy should have control of this one once again, but Lee Ellis here locks up the front as well, going on the brakes, and this is a tough place to get it done here to get those moves, and being slow like this is not going to help anybody right now. There's the BetSmart DPR car just behind, trying to find a way through, so all of a sudden these front few drivers here, they're in a proper scrap here, Reese.
Yeah, they absolutely are, and down the front stretch, you really get the slipstream. Hinzy trying to find a move on Lee Ellis, and he's forced to go to the outside. Ellis very late on the brakes. Can he pull it up in time? Yes, he can. Oh no, bit of contact between himself, Hinzy, and Reese Keane as well, all coming together at the apex. And you see what Thomas Hinz is doing here in his sim rig. Eyes of concentration, bearing into the rear bumper of Lee Ellis. And I'm looking at Reese Keane as well, trying desperately to search for a move, but it does look like Lee Ellis is walking wounded at the moment. Hinzy's got some battle scars as well, but he does seem to have the pace.
And look at how this is starting to form into a massive train. You can see Ruben Goodall there, fifth back in that train. There in the Pursuit Sim Racing car, trying to get in. Hayden Veld in sixth, Scott Gamble in seventh position, all of whom know they've got a pit stop. Kyle George set the fastest lap of the race that last time by. Look at this from Kyle George. Get aggressive through the south bend, trying to get something done. So Reese Keane here under a bit of pressure. Now you're going to start seeing a few unorthodox moves here as Ruben Goodall gets tucked up underneath. And look at the narrow line from Hayden Veld. This train is now 10 cars back.
This is crazy. At the start of this Split 2 event, we're only on lap 3, and it looks like the entirety of the top 15, top 20 is involved in a single battle pack here. Well, up the front, it looks like Hinzy has not gotten the draft that he needs to try and get by Lee Ellis before Roller Coaster, and Ellis much more on the line this time, but there's still the potential for a penalty to be issued. We're still keeping an eye out for news from race control.
We absolutely are, and of course that race control will be giving as much as possible here for these incidents. They'll be having a long look. There's been a lot to dissect on the opening lap. It is going to take a little bit of time. This is the back of the train, and now the next one. David Kinman under pressure here. Pursuit versus race on odd, as there's Benjamin Smith. Brian Borg sets the fastest lap of the race so far, as down the inside goes the Mustang on Mustang, and Benjamin Smith in the 91. Race on odds gets the move done.
Beautiful stuff there. Of course, that turn one, the horseshoe, very tight to start with, but opens up on exit. It's a great place to attempt to pass. One of the places you're going to see the most passes being made around here. But Hinzy has had no such luck here in his dogged pursuit of Lee Ellis. Tell you what, the driver of the number 18 Trans-Tasman machine has recovered well from that earlier incident and is starting to pick up the pace. He's actually dragging Hinzy along with him. You can see that Reese Keane and Kyle George have started falling back from these guys.
Yeah, and that was slightly wide from Reese Keane and Kyle George, 2 tyres over then as he's trying to attack as much as possible. There's no instant limit per se when it comes to this series, but if they go over a certain threshold, they'll start losing championship points. Wide goes George, and there in the background there, I think that's Goodall around. Absolutely it is. So a spin coming out to the oak tree for Ruben Goodall, and this is the worst moment possible because you see a whole host of cars go on by. A Motorsim simulation replay. Reese, dissect.
Well, there's not much to this. He goes out wide, clips the left rear into the gravel, and that makes him lose all the traction, and around he goes. Of course, that little melee gave a bit of an advantage there to the 5-4-3 machinist Scott Gamble, and it's created this 3-car fight here that may end up going wrong if we can continue to stay with the replay. Brian Borg trying his best to make his way past, but ultimately Cameron Dance tries getting him as well. We're still on the replay. That little incident there for Ruben Goodall creating this incredible concertina that results in Brian Borg ultimately losing out on that position.
Yep, and just like that, and oh no, we hear as that's Brian Borg in the grass, and there was a big amount of contact. It's the gone road car, Christian Smart, who was so close to victory in Super Split 2 last time out. Let's dissect that one all the way at turn number 1, as on the brakes, Smart's in a little bit deep, and ultimately everybody has to scatter in 6s and 7s. Cam Dance just about gets out of it unscathed, but a huge amount of time loss, and that one for Christian Smart may be a bit too aggressive now as the pack from 7th on backwards continues. Thomas Hinz still there in 2nd place, chasing down Lee Ellis at the front of the field, but remember there is still that Damocles hanging over Lee Ellis's head. We still do not have a decision after 1/4 of this race being score complete. We are expecting it, but right now Thomas Hinz knows that he doesn't necessarily have to go out there and be aggressive.
And just like that, the news has come through from race control. Lee Ellis has been black flagged for the incident earlier on there. So he'll be making a tour through the pits in the next couple of laps, I'd gather. He has the gap to Thomas Hinz, so Hinzy's not going to have to worry about backing off too much when Ellis eventually comes in, but that's going to be a bit of a dark cloud hanging over Lee Ellis's night. Let's see if he takes the penalty now. Yes, he does. In he goes.
Yeah, no doubts about that. So Thomas Hinz gets the race lead back once again as down on the lane he is with the incident there with Jacob Knight not making life easy. So Hinzy leads, Reese Keane in 2nd, Kyle George in 3rd place. We haven't seen this good of a run from Reese Keane in a little while, and I'm very, very impressed with the 832 DPR car starting to really make a name and trying to get close through the NASCAR bend at turn number 3, and now over through the left hook and quote-unquote the right hook that comes along straight after. There have been some great drivers making great progress. Look at drivers who are right near the back of the field who've done well. Jeff Rahali's up to 13th.
That's a great job there from Rahali, starting just outside the top 30, remember, and running in 17th at the moment. He's got a pretty clean car aside from that big smudge on the left-hand side, so he's managed to stay out of trouble. And Rahali is no stranger to Scops. Remember, I believe actually taking a Split 2 win at Monza a couple of years ago. Oh no, further troubles there for Ruben Goodall. I'm not sure exactly what part of the circuit that is. It looks like it might be coming up to the Oak Tree section. I can't be sure.
No,
we'll go on a replay and see.
Turn 4 it looks like. It looks like turn 4, so had already gone off the circuit then at turn number 1 and 2. So that put him side by side with Harold Stadler going on by, and on the brakes through 3, that's all nice and dandy, but then coming up to 4 on the brakes, a little overcrowded, and that one was always going to be awkward there. That was a Team Hyperdrive car, and there was a little bit of contact with another Team Hyperdrive car, and that will be a case of Ruben Goodall just not having luck is around again, and I think that may just be retirement central for the 33.
Yeah, big shame there for Ruben. This might be a safety car, actually. Remember, V8SCOPS has a no escape rule. You can't just escape and bring it back to the pits that way. You have to request a tow from race control before you'll be allowed off the circuit. So if Goodall continues to stay there, we're going to have to see a safety car. And Lee Ellis, I believe on his 2nd tour through the pits, taking some service, doing an actual pit stop this time,
Safety
getting
car.
himself on strategy. And there is the safety car indeed for Ruben Goodall.
that bunches everything together, and that's actually amazing decision-making there from Lee Ellis. Remember, Lee's just come down in and made that stop, that mandatory stop, and that's going to put him right back into position once again then in this race. So that's absolutely crucial. Not a lot of drivers have pitted early here in this one. They'll all funnel back through, and I think Lee Ellis here, if he gets himself onto the back of the train, he could funnel back out in the race lead straight again.
He absolutely could. Depends on what these drivers do under the safety car conditions. Of course, Nick Parker from our OSR crew driving the safety car. No, it's Michael Korolev at the wheel of the Porsche safety car here today. So he'll come out just in front of Thomas Hinz when he gets to the start-finish line. They are still going at a fast rate of speed, but since it's under safety car conditions, no overtaking allowed. So that little lockup might not help Thomas Hinz too much for his tyre life. We'll see what happens here if drivers go into the pits at the end of this one. Drivers that have pitted so far include Brian Ball, Craig Anspatch, and it looks like the entirety of the field coming into the pits here, at least the top 5 anyway.
Oh, look at Hayden Veld. That was a great little jump onto the lane, and everybody's now going to be trying to slow themselves right down, look for their box, and make those stops as we see everybody cycle on in and try and get their stops sorted before they get themselves back out and going again. So there's the stops that they all have. They all wait, and there they go. And just like that, Thomas Hinz back in control. But Hayden Veld, the big winner in all of the stops. He's now up to 3rd overall as everybody comes back out again. They all had to make one stop, of course, in this race. And why not take the free stop under the safety car? Look at that eye candy car in 3rd place. Exactly what it needed to be, right with full attention.
Yeah, great job from Hayden Veld, and that was very opportunistic of him. He took advantage of the situation and hit all of his marks perfectly. Unfortunately, it seems that the gamble, quote unquote, that we were talking about with regard to Lee Ellis has not worked, because unfortunately he doesn't seem to have made his way through to the front. He was just way too far behind these guys when they all came in.
Well, he's not a million miles away, though. 12th place at the moment. There's Brian Borg in 9th. So from what was effectively right down at the back, having made 2 stops compared to 1, to still be in 12th place from all of that. And oh my goodness, something's happened coming out of the pits, because that's Henry King with no rear boot, so to speak. And what will be the issue there? I think that may have even been the lap 1 contact and not repaired. So for Henry King, it looks like it's going to be a very breezy time in the cockpit.
Yeah, looks like it indeed. At least he's not going to have to worry about too much drag from all of that rear wing assembly. And you just caught a glimpse of Ruben Goodall still parked on the side of the track. I believe if they're going to let the field cycle by him and then allow him to escape back, because we'd like to get this safety car period over and done with and get back up to racing. We're going to be coming up to half race distance very shortly. So drivers that have not pitted are going to be in a world of hurt, and there are only 2 drivers in the field that have not taken a pit stop. It's Robert Crisdale and Stuart Crawford.
Yep, and both of whom are going to be up there towards the back. Harold Stadler is also a driver who has yet to take a stop. His only stop, I think, has been a drive-through penalty, so he'll have a lot of work to do to bring this one back into formation. But this is a very interesting scenario. So Thomas Hinz is in the lead, Reese Keane 2nd, Hayden Veld 3rd. Then it's Kyle George and Cam Dance, your top 5, followed by Scott Gamble, Benjamin Smith, David Kinman, Brian Borg, and Andrew Mogridge in the race on Oz 009. They're rounding out the top 10 at the moment. Car can escape then from what is one Mr. Ruben Goodall, and then hopefully that will be the signal for lights or flashing lights off on the pace car. And it's nice to see Mike Korolev out there in the pace car right now, trying to get a good run. Part of what happens when that safety car procedure comes in, normally it's Nick Parker, but if someone's looking at something or someone's unavailable at that point, any one of the three members of race control, that being Simon Black, Nick Parker, or Michael Korolev, can go out into that safety car and go out there and push. And that's one of the really cool things about the manual safety car, which is run here in this series, which is seldom copied.
Yes, indeed. And there you get a magnificent aerial shot of the entire facility of VIR. Really gives you a sense for the scale of this racetrack. And we're going to stay out for one more lap here behind the safety car before Korolev pulls away down the back straight and allows Thomas Hinz to regain control of this field. It's a very long circuit, VIR, as you saw in the aerial shot. It's a track that is 5.2 kilometers long. And talking about the weather conditions as well, as we see on screen, the current track temperature, it's only gone up 1 degree from the start of the session. So it's a very nice, cool racetrack out there that's certainly going to afford a little extra grip when the tyres come up to their operating temperature. But with the amount of coasting that these guys are doing, as we see Crisdale taking his pit stop, the amount of slow running we're seeing is going to be taking all of the heat out of those tyres.
Pit exit was closed, and Robert Crisdale's come back out onto circuit. So stewards are going to have a look at the JPSS car and adjudicate whether there's a penalty there for exiting with the red light down on pit exit. Those who are at the back of the pack are able to go. Crawford ahead of Dan Misdale, who's now down at the back of the pack. So that's going to be worth keeping an eye out on. I think pit exit there was closed.
Yeah, it definitely was at the time Crisdale exited, and it's pretty clear in the V8SCOPS rulebook you can't exit the pits unless race control says the exit is open. It only opens after the entire field have gone by under a safety car, so I would expect a penalty of some sort coming in for Robert Crisdale. Bit of a shame, but them's the rules.
Them definitely are the rules as they look to try and go on forward. Now, it's been a blustery start here, Reese, for Thomas Hinz. He lost a few positions on the start and then had to work hard to get them back again after all the dramas in front between Jacob Knight and Lee Ellis. So now what does Thomas Hinz do? Has Reese Keane, who has stayed very much close, and Hayden Veld has been quietly whittling away in terms of this race. I don't think this is an assured guarantee with 11 laps to go.
I would be inclined to agree with you, but we got to remember, once Michael Korolev pulls away in the safety car, Hinz has control over the field, and he can pick up speed whenever he likes. The issue is, Reese Keane and Hayden Veld have to be in tune with that. They have to know exactly when the right time to go is. Otherwise, Thomas Hinz is just going to skip away from them.
Absolutely. So, pace under the control now of Thomas Hinz. The safety car will dive down in onto pit lane, and the acceleration zone will be between turn 17 and 17A of the hog pen. Yes, they do name the corners a little bit funnily here at VIR. There's a lot of A's and B's and C's for corners that go on as part of double apexes that effectively are part of the same bit. So Korolev pulls away and goes through in the nice silver virtual racing school safety car there, that Porsche, and pulling it down onto the lane. Thomas Hinz not keeping a massive gap here at this stage, and is going to try and really go off on the noisy pedal and go really, really quickly here, I think, away, keeping a high cadence then on the restart. And this is going to be all about looking behind. The 632 will want to get out there and be aggressive immediately, and there goes Thomas Hinz, gets the go-ahead, and let's get back to racing action there. That's a great jump then that got a couple of car lengths for Thomas Hinz. He'll now be unchallenged into turn number 1 with Hayden Veld trying to stay close to Reese Keane here in the fight for second place. Any one of the top 10 still with a chance. And look at Lee Ellis in the background starting to make positions immediately down the inside of Rob Harris. No arguments.
Excellent job from Ellis there. First step in a very long journey to get himself back up into the top 5, hopefully for him. But up the front, it looks like Hayden Veld chasing down Reese Keane, and Thomas Hinz has not managed to get away from these guys in the first sector. In terms of the top 3, they haven't really broken away that much. I just saw a slight mistake there for Reese Keane. A bit of a squirrely behavior on those cold tyres, but he's in the draft. Crucially, beforehand, Thomas Hinz had the draft of Lee Ellis to try and defend himself from the chasers behind, but he doesn't have that luxury now.
No, absolutely not, and that's going to be crucial here as they go up through South Bend and over towards the Oak Tree corner. And on the brakes, up the hill it is as well. Very much a lot of similarities to Moss, and that is going to be Henry King in a world of trouble then in the ANZ car. And that's not ideal, and it's the walking wounded at the back of the pack. So something's happened with Henry King. All of a sudden, we got some great battles going on as this is Kinman trying to find a way through then on the Race on Oz car there of Benjamin Smith, and is not going to be able to find that one then for 7th place on the break. So there have been a few dramas on that restart then, especially with Henry King, who's dropped down the order. But look at this from Hayden Veld. He's all over Reese Keane at the moment.
Absolutely he is. Thomas Hins is... the gap has stayed relatively the same between these guys, but Veld right on the back of Keane now, and we see the magnificent shot of them coming down this front stretch through the right-hander, coming into the horseshoe. It looks like a potential move there from Cameron Dance. He tried to get in the inside of Kyle George, but nothing doing for the moment. Meanwhile, Veld continuing to chase Keane. I can see he's really making good use of those corner exits. That's I don't think that's a routine pit stop for Craig Anspatch there.
Absolutely not. So that's going to have to be work done then for Anspatch, trying to get everything sorted out together. This is Brian Borg in the Premier Racing Team car we're on board with. Look how much wheel work had to go in from David Kinman to keep the car straight through the snake. So now they start pushing on through the lefts and rights, and this is where commitment plus is needed. A bit of air taken for a few drivers, and you can see the difference between those who have to lift and those who don't. And it's clear Brian Borg has got commitment plus pretty much subscribed to at this stage. Up to the Oak Tree corner they all come along, and the crucial fact is nobody able to break away. The draft train, you can see it right now as they go down the straight. The top 6 still within 1.8 seconds of each other as they go on through. So this is a really tough battle for everybody to try and get an advantage. It's like driving on the highway and being stuck behind a freight trainer, say for example, right in the middle of the road.
Yeah, exactly. It's a difficult place to be if you're a driver in that pack. You know that you've got the pace, you know that you can get up on the rivals in front of you, but you have to deal with all of that pressure from behind, and they have the same benefit of the draft that you do. Looks like Reese Keane has managed to break away from Hayden Veld, meanwhile, in the final sector, and really starting to pressure Thomas Hins, who already sees him coming and goes defensive. This is going to be on now for the battle for the lead.
It absolutely is, and Thomas Hins, who has been stone-faced as per usual, is now going to have extra concentration, a more furrowed brow, trying to hold this together. And you can see how much he's having to work to try and get the car pointed in through a couple of corners. This is morning conditions, so this track is getting hotter and hotter as this race goes on here, Reese. And the big issue for those drivers is that they're going to be losing that grip time and time again. You can see the concentration. There's going to be no words going through that microphone right now. It's just pure adrenaline and pure skill needed to stay ahead of a very ferocious pack.
Yeah, and Himsey will be thinking about the tyre life as well as the track temperature continues to rise. Those tyres are going to get a bit slicker. There's going to be more of a drop-off in terms of grip if you push too hard. But Himsey, crucially, has been very good out of this particular corner. Oak Tree managed to get the power down absolutely perfectly every time so far, and that is what is allowing him to stay ahead of Reese Keane for the time being.
Absolutely, and this has been key for Thomas Hins. He's not been in a position where he's been effectively challenged down the inside into any corner just yet. He's kept his pace up nicely, but look at how much they close. They head through towards the roller coaster. It's another case of everybody on the ride and buckle in and hope that you get exactly what you need. Meanwhile, through all of this, Lee Ellis has moved up now into 10th place, starting to attack David Kinman, but Thomas Hins at the moment here in the race lead, sees Reese Keane pull within a 10th and a half, and now definitely has to defend this one down on the inside, because Keane's looking here to the outside to try and get this one done, and is not going to try and find it. There is overlap though, and has to shut the door. Just like that. That was very late there as Hayden Veld goes through, and that's the gap that Thomas Hins was cultivating.
Well, there we go. That little bit of contact between himself and Keane. Keane had to deal with a bit of oversteer and got a tap from Hayden Veld to boot. So all of that momentum that Keane was carrying is now gone. Thomas Hinz with the few car lengths gap that he has wanted all race long. We'll have another look at that one on our modem simulation replay. And there you see the tap and getting the car settled was what allowed Hinz to break away there.
Yep, exactly. And Hayden Veld had to get on the racing line quick. And Reece Keane had to get on the racing line quick because of Hayden Veld, who was just behind, and Scotty Boy Gamble unable to find a way through on Cameron Dance to gain the place. But crucially, they haven't lost a boatload of times. Sideways goes down, round goes Daz, right in the middle, and everybody's going to have to try and get themselves out of the way. And I think Cam's just done it. Maybe damaged that front right, but just about gets away.
Well, not with a rear wing, that's to be sure, and a very frustrated Cameron Dance shaking his head at what went on down there at Oak Tree, and looks to me like the contact from behind from Scott Gamble, there was none. Cam just pushed too hard into the entry to Oak Tree.
Yeah, and it's as easy as that to make the mistake. Knew he was in a fight for the race lead and the podium, and it goes away like that, and he won't be too happy now. I wonder... Oh, he did get contact, though, through.
But only
he got some
after
help
he
from
started
Scott Gamble,
sliding.
but there's not much you can do from that situation there, Reese, after that contact from Gamble. So you can see on the brakes, he goes through the right. He's just pushed wide there. He just catches the grass ever so slightly, and Gamble's got nowhere to go at this point.
Yeah, Cam is just firing towards the inside of the corner. Gamble, well, he's already committed, so there's nothing more he can do other than push Dance around. And the number 91 of Benjamin Smith also with nowhere to go either, making contact with Dance's front end. So ultimately, 3 cars with damage out of that one. But back to live pictures and the battle for the top 3. Veld still holds on to third, trying to pressure Reece Keane for second, but Keane's managed to gap him slightly. Now Kyle George is the driver the spotlight is on.
Exactly, and all of this now has given 1.1 seconds here to Thomas Hinz, who's able now to just get that little bit of a gap. So Hayden Veld has been staring at the back of that DPR car for lap upon lap upon lap, and will want to try and get through up into second to have his own attack here at Thomas Hinz, and that's the key here, trying to find a way to get through as soon as possible, unless Reece Keane has the pace to close it, and they can see a few lights flashing as that's Cam Dance there, back in 25th place now, all of a sudden. And look at the front of the car in front. That's another few tenths of a second that's gone away, as this is Adam Barnard now, and it's a case once more of seeing drivers who do not have the cleanest vehicles in the world starting to have a scrap here. Henry King back there in 22nd place, trying to get anywhere near close to finding some moves. So for the time being, it seems like drivers have all got this figured out, but it's that last sector where the lead starts closing down. Brian Borg under pressure now, PRT car under pressure from Benjamin Smith trying to recover.
Yes, indeed. So Benjamin Smith will be carrying a bit of front-end damage out of this one. Borgie goes defensive, but Smith is too far back to attempt any kind of move. Borg's going to have to compromise himself through the mid-corner there, which may give the advantage to Smith. And just up ahead of them, you see Lee Ellis, who has managed to work his way back up into 6th place. I'll tell you what, for driver of the race, I think Lee Ellis definitely a candidate, as there is some contact there between Borg and Smith.
Oh, just like that. It's so easy to do around this place, using the chrome horn ever so slightly, and the rest of the chrome car, some would say there, for one Mr. Benjamin Smith at the moment as they go on through. Some good drives back through the field, though. Christian Smart in 12th. He's trying to find a way through the KRF car of Rob Harris, and that one not quite happening at the moment. You can get live timing and scoring, of course, here. And look at that from Harris. That's so aggressive. That may even be slowdown worthy for how aggressive he was through that section.
Yeah, well, the cut track rules are pretty lenient there through the S's unless you go 100% off. So Harris is good for now. Oh, no.
Ellis.
That's Ellis. Oh, my goodness. What's happened to him?
It looked like contact through the Oak Tree corner, so Lee Ellis has run into issues. Let's get a Motum simulation replay, see how that one all happened there. Brian Borg was just behind in terms of this little 3-car scrap. So up the hill towards the Oak Tree, down and then up you go. And now on the brakes, has he just overcooked it into the corner? Oh, absolutely he has. And straight into the tyres goes Lee Ellis.
I was just singing his praises then for working his way back up into the top 6. Well, that's very unfortunate for Lee. Back down into P13 now.
Lee.
So it's been an incredibly difficult night for him. Meanwhile, for the lead, it does look like things are really starting to heat up because Ezy has started to fall back into the clutches of Reese Keane.
I know, some great laps as there goes through Christian. Oh, no, there doesn't go through Christian Smart. He goes off the circuit, and it is a downhill all the way from that section, so it hurts even more to get back onto track. So that's not worked for Christian Smart. There's Thomas Hinds, your race leader. Then it's Reese Keane, Hayden Veld, Kyle George, your top 4. Scott Gamble there in 5th place, trying to stay with the pack, but struggling to at this stage. But Thomas Hinds is really opening sector. We've just seen a massive incident there for Guy Leach there in the injections car, and ultimately there, you're going to need more than an injection to get back going again.
All right, replay once again thanks to our mates at Modem. Let's have a look at what happened to Leachy here, coming through into NASCAR Bend, and that, I believe, is one of the KRF cars in front of him. And we'll have to wait and see what went on here. The direction change coming into turn 5, bit too much understeer, and he catches the grass on the exit. He tries to keep turning, but there is no grip at all on that grass.
And it falls away from you as well, so you're fighting against gravity at that point as well. Makes life incredibly difficult to get things going. But look at Reese Keane. He closes right up in the second half of the lap, and he is so dangerous there at that right-hand bend. And this is where Thomas Hinds has got to be alert, because Reese Keane and that DPR car, they are set up for that final sector retreat. With 4 laps to go, it is all about these 4 at the front and who is going to take that golden ticket, because Thomas Hinds has had control for most of this race, but no guarantees. In the mirrors goes Reese Keane. He's trying to force a mistake.
Yeah, and we talk about it all the time, the psychological warfare that goes on when you're in the cockpit of any racing car, real or virtual. It's all about what you can do to pressure your rivals into mistakes, because it's all well and good to be the superior driver and work your way through on merit alone, but the job is made a bit easier if you give your opponent a bit of a fright and they take themselves out of contention. Meanwhile, with Tyler Blackburn going side by side with the damaged Cameron Dance, he gets the move done potentially before NASCAR. Cam just has to pull out. The damage that he's carrying means that that car is nearly undrivable, as you can see.
Absolutely, and you can see just how difficult it has been and will be as this race does continue on. A drive-through penalty has just come through for one driver, as Mackenzie sees a vehicle behind run into troubles. That's Christian Smart at the drive-through, but someone running off the road there in 25th place. That'll be Guy Leach again, just trying to get the car going forward. So not ideal for the Injectors Online car trying to go through, but this is the front of the field. Hinsey and Keane having a really good scrap at the moment, and this is just a waiting game of epic proportions here, trying to get things going. They're all slowing up again because Thomas Hinds is a huge bottleneck in this pack, and the key has been open out the gap through the first half for Thomas Hinds, just mitigate the damage through the second half, and again Reese Keane needs to run through the hog pen corner to go and get something happening at turn number 1. It's not been happening so far in this race, and there aren't many opportunities left for Reese Keane to get another DPR car into the top split.
It's 3 laps to go as Keane just creeps further and further up on Thomas Hinds into the braking zone. Oh, he is very hungry for that position, but as you say, it's all about the exit from Hogpen and putting the move up the inside of turn 1. It's obvious to see that with the superiority of Hinds' car in the first half of the lap, that draft down the back straight out of Oak Tree is undoable. And this is an issue here for Jeff Rahali, who we come across missing his front bumper. Something's happened to him in the braking zone here for Roller Coaster.
Absolutely. I'm surprised the engine's still in its bay, as that's Adam Barnard there in the Team 055 car. And there is the 111 car of Stuart Crawford, giving him a tap as well for his troubles. So not ideal, the scenario there, but the contact is what has just happened. Back to live pictures, and Thomas Hinds with 3 laps to go, holding off Keane, holding off Veld. Look at how aggressive there Hayden Veld was through the corner. I think he's run slightly wide, and that's Reese Keane running wide, and that could be Hayden Veld's chance now to pick up second place and go out there and be aggressive and start to make those moves. You start waiting for one opportunity here and there, and behind the Ben Max car, looking for the outside. Is it going through this section? This is going to have to be some brave driving to get it done like this, and they're going to hold each other up now ever so slightly. So trying to get the overlap, runs out of road, slides on wide, and that is 0.4 of a second gone in a heartbeat. Veld now looking back at George, trying to save a podium.
Well, it was worth a try at this late stage of the race. It's now going to be 2 laps to go when our leader Thomas Hinz crosses the line, and Kyle George will be smelling blood here. He saw the move that Veld made. It's going to take him a little bit to get back on rhythm, so George needs to capitalize on this, but it's not going to happen at turn 1.
No, not yet anyway, so there's one more chance at turn 1 here in this race for Kyle George if he thinks about having a podium here in Super Split 2. This has been a hard battle to fathom, but Thomas Hinz has the gap now up at 1.1 seconds out on track. He loves the opening sector through 2 into 3. He's just able to trail brake that little bit better than everybody else and pull himself up forward in this pack, up to 4th gear now, looking to continue. And he looks at that gap and he finally gives himself maybe a little bit of a chance to have a breath, but he doesn't look like he's doing anything. He's stoic as always, going on through here, the lefts and the rights, and you can see it's very much a case of Thomas Hinz just trying to build that gap, little wiggle going through. He uses all of the road every single time.
Yeah, and looking at Reese Keane behind him, you see he slides a little bit more on the entry to Oak Tree. That's what gave him the disadvantage last lap, as a little wheel dipped in the gravel there for Hayden Veld, losing the run on Reese Keane, but Kyle George is too far behind to take advantage.
Yep, and that's the worry here for Kyle George. That podium's not going to happen if he's in no position to attack, but the tyres are maybe starting to just hit a little bit of a cliff here for Hayden Veld, with that small slide being a little too aggressive on power application. But 1 lap then coming up to go in this race for Super Split 2. Any one of these 4 drivers could find themselves with the golden ticket. It's in Thomas Hinz's hands at this stage, with a 1 second margin exactly at this stage coming over the start-finish line. It's been close all the way through, and Scott Gamble started to close back down the gap in 5th place in this one. Trying everything possible is every driver in the top 5 to gain an extra place or to hold on to what they have, and at this stage it has been a case of just holding on to a small margin, keeping the driver behind at an arm's length. Now there's issues for Guy Leach again, who's gone around in the Injectors Online racing car, and the 46 Rossi-inspired number is not having any luck at all here today. Hinz, though, through the snake, they come along for the final time, and now through these glorious S's section corners, which do so much to get every single corner working up over the rise. Little bit of air for everyone as they go on through this section. But Thomas Hinz, knowing that he's just got to bring the car home. No mistakes up at the Oak Tree. It's off camber through here. Make sure that it doesn't all fall apart. And it's nice and narrow at this stage. Reese Keane, the second back, holding that gap to second place, doing all that he needs to get there, but it might just be a bridge too far at this stage to catch this driver. Watch out for the final braking zones then of this lap. The big one comes up right now. This is the roller coaster section coming up to for Thomas Hinz and the Ra2 racing car on the brakes through the right-hand bed, and now just the left that comes up, and now the hog pen comes along for one Mr. Thomas Hinz, who has put together a flawless run here after mistakes on the opening section of road, and the way he's fought back, oh, it's nonchalant, isn't it? Oh, a sigh of relief, a win for Thomas Hinz. Welcome to the main event.
Typical Hinzy style there across the line, single finger up, yes, job done, excellent stuff. And Lee Ellis, after suffering many issues in this race, will end up finishing 12th just behind Will Newell. That was a big shame for Lee. Some of the finest driving I've seen from him to try and get himself back up the order after his penalty. We'll get a quick replay here of what happened to Benjamin Smith down on the back stretch. That was the big issue there. Looked like a bit of confusion over who was going to take what line, and David Kinmond ultimately tapping him off the circuit.
you always have to stick to your line when you're battling like that. And Benjamin Smith there, moving over to the right-hand side to block and defend, and very nearly lost even more than the positions that he did down to 10th place. So you don't think there that David Kidman had any chance to react to that. He would have had to have jammed on the brakes through that section. But let's get official classified results then up on screen for you after a wonderful, wonderful race then that had absolutely everything to go with it. Thomas Hinds picks up the win in the Ratu racing car over 20 laps worth of battling. He wins by a 1 second and 3,000th margin over Reese Keane in the DPR car, second place overall. Could have had that shot to attack for the race win overall. There's a few drivers take the Patriots course in the background there. Hayden Veld picking up third place with Kyle George in fourth, and Scott Gamble means that the top 5 was split by 2.7 seconds over the line. Brian Borg had a good drive today into 6th place with David Kinman 7th. Andrew Mogridge there gets 8th place with Rob Harris, a quiet drive in the 606 to 9th, and Benjamin Smith, after that contact, is the second race on Oscar in 10th place.
Fun fact, positions 7th to 10th all started outside or just within the top 20. Will Newell manages to hold off Lee Ellis by 2/10 there for 11th place, with Brenton O'Brien coming home in lucky 13th. Josh Morris and Simon Mazzomo round out the top 15. It's a good drive from Mazzomo, starting dead last. Neil Pearson and Tyler Blackburn come home in 16th and 17th. Henry King, missing his rear wing, comes home 30 seconds behind in 18th. Vincent Skilbeck in 19th, and Cameron Dance, well, he's another one of the drivers that was probably expecting more out of today.
It's a very difficult race, this one. Darren McKenzie, first of the hyperdrive cars in 21st, and you got Christian Smart, had a drive-through penalty in at 22nd. Issues for Harold Stadler early on in 23rd, same for Kane Hewson in at 24th. Crawford gets 25th in the 111 car with Shane Evans 26th. Adam Barnard, Todd Parks, Guy Leach, and Jeff Rahali make 30.
Rahali was knocking on the door of the top 10 before his incidents. A shame to see him finish so far down. Robert Crisdale would have gotten a penalty from race control. He finishes a lap down in 31st position. Craig Anspach and Daniel Misdale are our first retirements, both 11 laps down on the winner. Ruben Goodall could not make the finish either. And Jacob Knight starting in second, unfortunately bumped off by Lee Ellis at the roller coaster on lap 1. And from then, he just could not recover.
Absolutely not, and that was always going to be a disaster waiting to happen then in the early stages. But, ladies and gentlemen, this is not the end of broadcast proceedings that we have here today, because we've got a 250-kilometre race coming up, the halfway stage of the championship, round 8 overall, and it has a Thomas Hinds inside it as well. You do not want to miss it here on the iRacing Esports Network, brought to you by SimSpeed TV, because your virtual racing school, the V8SCOPS season, brought to you by Ezy Finance, is coming to you very, very soon after this.
Carolina, where the field is rolling out for the start of today's 400-lap race on this 0.625-mile racetrack. Here's the starting lineup. On the pole from Dawsonville, Georgia, in the number 9 Coors Ford qualifying and Winston Cup race from North Wilkesboro is underway. Everybody nicely through turns number 1 and 2 as Bill Elliott has the lead, and Dale Earnhardt has jumped into second position, followed by Benny Parsons and Bobby Allison. His second win of 1987.
History, challenge, and bravery. That's the deal when you come to this track for round 8 of the Virtual Racing School V8SCOPS for 2020 Virginia International Raceway. VIR is one of the original 3 purpose-built American road courses, along with Watkins Glen and Road America. It emerged in the 1950s as a home for sports car racing in the middle of stock car country. This place has been called America's Nürburgring, and for good reason. There are many treacherous sequences of turns here that offer no forgiveness if you make a mistake. Quite a few are blind on entry, and the natural topography can catch you out with sudden dives into valleys and over the crests of hills. For many sim racers, myself included, just one clean lap around here is an achievement. The first sector is where a lot of battles will be fought. Turn 1, the horseshoe, is one of the prime passing opportunities, but its opening exit means the outside line can be held. This translates to the inside for NASCAR bend and the left hook, where you can also feed one to your rival. It's tempting to mash the right foot out of turn 5, but the track tightens back up for the snake. This small meander needs to be straight-lined, so it's important to get your aim right to start with, otherwise the exit down the following straight will be compromised. Also, if you're still battling from the first few corners, make sure you've got it sorted out before you get to the snake. 2 cars go side by side through here, and at least one of them is going off. The same can be said for the S's. Almost flat out, almost going airborne over the prominent crest. This is one of those places where pushing the limit will pay dividends, but again, there's no room for error, and you have to dial it back for the next couple of corners ahead. Drivers have to be careful and precise over South Bend, which falls away right after the apex. Get some understeer or catch the grass after the curb, you got a vast expanse of grass waiting to swallow you up. Oak Tree is the most famous section of the track, named for this oak tree, which unfortunately fell in 2013. The radius of the corner was apparently set by the turning circle of a road grading machine. The approach is fast and crests yet another hill, and you have to keep slowing down while turning. Oak Tree Bend itself is a sharp right-hander that leads on to the long back straight, so it's important to not lock your brakes or run wide, and equally important to avoid wheel spin on the exit. Slipstream City is located on the back straight here, but actually making the pass at the end of it is tricky. Roller Coaster's entry sees you braking through a left-hand kink into a tight right-hand corner. Opportunistic driving could sneak you up the inside here, but it is hard to pull off cleanly. Make sure the rear is stable on the way out, and finally you get to Hogpen, the last corner. The dip is the signal to get back on the power, and the drivers will shift up into 4th before the final apex. If the line is right, you should be able to keep it flat through here, but be wary of the condition of your tyres. If you mess it up on exit, fortunately, it isn't far to pit lane. This is a circuit that the drivers of the series voted for, so you know it's highly regarded amongst veterans of these Australian touring cars. It's nonetheless a place that gives and takes away in equal measure, and it's the last chance for a good points haul before the upcoming Enduros. Who will put their best foot forward at VIR? Well, I threw out my form guide after most sports, so your guess is as good as mine.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to your Virtual Racing School SCOPS 2020 season with 2 Ezy Finance, with Oceanic Sim Racing, Speed TV's presentation on the iRacing Esports Network. My name is Jake Sperry. It's Reese Gardner, the Southpaw Racer, alongside me. But Reese, this is a really important race here at Virginia. The race just before Enduros always puts together a spectacle and a showcase, and this is the final chance for about a month that drivers on their own merits can go and influence the championship. From this point, for about 3 rounds coming up at Phillip Island, at Imola, And of course, when it comes to that fantastic circuit of Mount Panorama Bathurst, it's going to be a team game that everyone is going to be looking for. Let's take a little look, though, at what is going to be happening and where we are situated with VIR out on this fantastic virtual plane as we close on in here for this, just a mile away from the North Carolina border as we go on through there. You can see like some Nashville, Tennessee, Cleveland, Ohio, Richmond, and of course the Charlotte area as well as part of the motor belt. Down we go and looking towards a track which very much has been wonderful. You can see the likes of the river there that effectively marks the border between the territories, and of course just how brilliant this track is. The Oak Tree Corner, likes of the roller coaster, the hog pen, the snake, the horseshoe. Every single corner is all about testing a vehicle and making life as difficult as possible for you to complete a lap race.
Yeah, exactly right. 5.2 kilometer long track with a 385 meter run to turn one. And interesting stat there up on the top left. Virginia International Raceway actually closed in the 1970s, but was reopened in 2000 under a country club business model. The track is owned by the members of the club. And of course, they rent out the track for professional racing events. It's one of the legendary circuits of the United States, and I'm really happy that we get to race here at SCOPS once again. That Split 2 race that we saw certainly turned it up, and we could see where the best places to pass around the circuit is and where the biggest mistakes will be made.
Absolutely, and in terms of mistakes here today, it's going to be all about how do you mitigate any small mistakes, and that championship has a lot to be looking at when it comes over to it. Now, let's take a look at this championship from a broad perspective. This is the championship, how it would look if there were no drop rounds at all and everything was all built together as it is, just a straight-out dogfight. You'd see James Scott at the top of the timing, or top of the point, here with a 274-point margin over Forza El Nabi, likes of Wayne Burke, Harley Haber, Andrew Gilliam there. They can see Thomas Hinch, who's had to fight his way through Super Split 2. They're in 6th position overall. But now let's flick the switch here and put one of the 3 drop rounds available into the championship standings, and you'll see just how much that this graphic changes as it moves on forward. You now see Forza El Nabi at the top of the timing stat, or top of the points at this moment, 77 points clear of James Scott. But you see drivers like Jake Maloney up into 5th, Madison Down up into 6th, Hinsey drops down to 8th, Jordan Ross elevates himself into 10th place. So you see that different names have been able to score points more freely because of the fact that their worst scoring result is effectively lopped off.
Yeah, exactly. And as you said, Sperry, the drivers are going to have to do that 2 more times at the end of the season. Your 3 worst results getting dropped. And of course, if you're a driver that posts consistently good results, like you're up in the top 6, maybe even the top 3 round on round, you're actually going to end up losing more points with the drop round system. You need to have at least one race where it's pretty much a very poor points haul or a retirement if you want to lose the minimum amount of points possible. But of course, every driver is out there to get the best result they can every single round. It is interesting to see, though, that with that drop round, Forza El Nabi is elevated into the lead of the championship. And James Scott, well, he managed to hold on to the championship lead until Mosport. And Andrew Gilliam, with the double win last round at Mosport, elevating himself into 3rd place. He's looking like an actual championship contender now.
Absolutely, and Andrew Gilliam knows that he's just got to continue to put point upon point upon point on the board, and what will be very interesting to see is who's going to be teaming up with who come endurance season. And of course, every single driver, every single team will be looking for the best possible names that they have available to them here over the course of those 3 races coming up, which will be 2 500-kilometer races, and of course the big 1,000, the race of all races. It's the best race in Australian sim racing, and you cannot argue otherwise. Of course, that Bathurst 1000 looming large over every single driver, every single team, and they would love nothing more than to see that victory. And it's had everything over the years. It's had the predictable, it's had the unpredictable pickup victories, but The one thing that has remained absolutely front and centre on people's minds is that talent has won that event outright, and those enduro races are won on talent.
That they are. It's a bit of a balancing act, really. We talked about how it becomes a team game. Drivers have to nominate who their enduro partner is at the start of the season, and they are locked together into the same two-car team for the whole season. So it's really, yes, talent, but also depending on your teammate to get the best result possible. You need to have a good measure of caution when you're driving in these endurance events, because the car is hard enough to drive as it is. You want to try and pilot it around there for epically long stints of at least an hour's worth of driving. Well, the difficulty just goes up and up and up. But once again, that is a matter for in a couple of weeks' time at Phillip Island. We're going to have to move our focus to what's going on here today. Forzan El Nabi is currently in the top position of the practice timesheets, just ahead of Dane Warren and Ethan Griggolt, who is making his return to the series. It's great to see Egg back on the grid.
It certainly is. And we're seeing so many times, so many drivers wanting to come back, get into the groove of things here, especially around this circuit, because if you're going to be going out there trying to help someone out in the Enduros, now is the time to start putting together some results and starting to get things all moving forward. A lot of drivers up and down the field will be hoping that they have the pace that it takes to go out there and put together the best form of result possible. I think many a driver will be hoping that they have the form book in their hand and hoping they have the best possible pace today to go out and make things happen. The front five at the moment in practice: Forzan El Nabi, Dane Warren, and then you've got Ethan Griggolt, Madison Down, and Cooper Webster, your top five. But a lot of drivers up and down the order will be hoping that they can get their seasons back on track. Someone I hope gets his season back on track, hasn't found the same sort of form that he did early on in the season. You can't stop talking about him, Harley Haber.
Yeah, exactly right. Harley currently in that seventh place in the practice timesheets, and he didn't have the best of rounds at Mosport. It was riddled with some unfortunate errors and a few incidents with other cars too. So Harley is going to have to get himself really back on track here at VIR, but he is looking quick, which is good to see. And speaking on the team front as well, Haber driving for United Sim Sports. There's also another driver that is making a return to racing in the series. First time we've seen him since Sebring. The reigning champion, Jared Filsell, is back on track here at VIR. So Haber, I think, as he has a little bit of an off-track excursion, will work a little bit better knowing that he's got the full force of his team behind him.
The change of priorities to Jared Filsell means that he hasn't attended all of the races so far this season, and effectively cannot defend his crown now from this point in car number one for United. It's a case for him. He's been in three different teams, in the past 2 years. So a bit of a tumultuous time, some would say. But at the moment, it seems like all the pace is still working well, in third position overall currently, but everybody's going to be looking to try and put themselves up near the front and find everything that they possibly can. But there's a lot of young names coming up through that are doing very well. My eye, of course, Jordi Sinai at the moment, currently 36 at the moment in the 440, but someone who is part of Fishy Mode Sports, really started to make a name for himself in a couple of races here and there in the sphere of sim racing, some of which you can find here on the iRacing Esports Network. If you haven't already, make sure you give it a like, make sure you give it a share, make sure that you subscribe and watch some amazing sim racing action that goes on this platform time and time again. But Jordi Sinai is someone who I think is one definitely for the future to watch.
Yeah, for sure. He had a great showing at Mosport in Split 2, qualified on pole, and here at the moment into the top split. Hasn't set a representative lap time in the practice session just yet, but he's coming around the start-finish line now, and we'll see what kind of times he puts down, where exactly he gets put. It's a 47.9 from Jordi Sinai, and that puts him, I'd say, up into 24th position. A second down currently on Forzan El Nabi, but hey, 1 second, if you're within 1 second of the fastest drivers in these Australian touring cars, I reckon that is an achievement in and of itself.
Absolutely, and I think this is one of the toughest fields in the world to try and get something. We always talk about how these fields are always close, they're tight, they're compact, but actually these fields often give some of the greatest racing, and I think is the greatest proving ground in the world of sim racing today, unrivaled absolutely anywhere, Reese, for talent development. And this is why, this series, in my view, is why Australia has some of the best sim racers in the world.
Well, we've certainly got the right environment to foster learning about race cars because, as I've said many times, these Australian touring cars, big, heavy, powerful, undertired, overpowered, and you definitely expose gaps in your driving technique with a car like this. If a driver can get their head around one of these machines and wheel them around a racetrack quickly, they're certainly on course to be a very fast driver in just about any other sim car.
Absolutely, and everybody looks to try and find some amazing pace, and it's all about trying to put all the building blocks together to make that happen. A lot of drivers will be looking at these building blocks thinking that they've got what it takes, and they've got a very, very strong run today to move up through the order and gain some places. I've got a little half eye on Clint Shane Smith here today in the number 23. He's got his all-star shootout that he's organising on the side, so maybe some attention has been taken away. The fact that he's been having to ask a driver here and a driver there, do you want to come and race in All-Star Shootout 7? But the big key for him today is going to be putting another good solid result in the board. I think top 20 would be an absolutely fantastic result for Clint Shane Smith as someone who is just putting those building blocks together and really has surprised a lot of people with his pace.
Yeah, he's got some talent, has Clint. He's certainly shown it in other series and in other disciplines of racing, but it seems like the results never quite go his way in the Australian touring car. But putting himself up into that 23rd position, certainly a place he'll be happy with in the practice session. If he can go even faster in qualifying, that will also be a bonus. And speaking of qualifying, we're just under 2 minutes away from that getting going. So that's going to be the time when the drivers turn up the wick. They're only going to have 20 minutes to complete a representative time around VIR. And of course, Sperry, we have the no escape rule throwing another spanner into the mix.
Speaking of spanners in the mix, Madison Downs just gone fastest in practice in the 77 Trans-Tasman Motorsports machine, 146.870, and that is a bumper front 7 split by no less than 0.08 of a second. And if you wanted any sort of idea of just how close racing can be, well, these are some of the best in the world, and they're all trying to scrap for thousandths and not hundredths, and that's the key. Scrapping for thousandths around this place, Reese, is exponentially harder.
Especially when you consider the sheer amount of corners around this place. Officially, there's 17, but if you look at a map of the circuit, you can quite easily tell that there is a lot more than 17 distinct corners around here, and they all have their own way of approach. There's varying lines, there's varying exits as well, and the elevation change too. There's an elevation change of over 130 meters at this racetrack. And if you look at the track map, our director Jay has just pointed out, there is no turn 13 on the circuit. And I think that is a very, very superstitious bent there for Virginia International Raceway. Of course, you can see that the back stretch does curve slightly to the right, so if you're pedantic about it, you could count it as a turn, but officially no turn 13 around here.
Normally the turn 13 is that small little patch in the middle which isn't run here in iRacing. It's known as Madison Avenue, and well, if that's not a sign for Madison Down, I do not know what is. here as qualifying is looking like it's going to be happening in just the next few moments. There's Barney, the flag man that we just seen there, waving that checkered flag as he absolutely loves to, and he'll be looking to try and get himself a good performance up there from that position. Qualifying is underway. It's 30 minutes, but what's key here today is that there is such a long lap around this place. There is going to be no stagger, so it's everybody on track, everybody into the pool, and now everybody have a party for 30 minutes worth of qualifying action. This is going to be all about putting the best lap possible together, and in these conditions, hot track temps, a little bit of cloud cover to start here in qualifying. That's going to be a false dawn for a couple of people. It's going to be exactly what's needed for others.
Yeah, exactly right. These track conditions are going to change quite a bit over the course of this session. Some cloud cover coming over the circuit, less UV hitting the circuit, more grip on the rubber. But they've got quite some time here to space themselves out and attempt to get some kind of clear air for a representative lap time. We saw how important the draft can be in Split 2. Well, if you can get a nice draft down the back stretch and down the front stretch as well, that is going to give you spades of time.
Exactly, and it's those spades of time that everyone will be searching for. There's Sam Blacklock behind Thomas Hinds on circuit, so here's another driver who will have the camera up. He had his camera propped up last time out by a little bit of Lego, so hopefully it's in a nice, better position right now. He'll be nice and calm, just waiting for the opportunity to start then in the Altus car and really get a good lap together. What's really tough about this place in qualifying is just giving yourself enough space to go out there and get a lap. You do not want to be stuck behind someone else who goes slow and get something going. Brady Myers kept their cards close to the chest in practice, did not set a representative lap time, so we'll keep an eye on those. But the first times will be coming in on the board, and let's go on board for a flying lap with Michael Taliancic then, making the run towards turn number 1, the horseshoe corner, and you can take that small kink right before you have to work out your yardage then on the left-hand side, on the brakes at about 200 yards away before hitting the brakes. That's a nice 7-iron that you get on in. A few drivers will be setting lap times. They're not representative. Their pit box was behind the start-finish line, so Andrew Gilliam technically has the fastest outlap of anybody into the NASCAR bend, and now you start looking for this left hook, and I like to call the right hook that follows straight after. You go through the left, then through the right, nice and neat there from Michael Taliancic, through the snake and on towards the backstretch.
And then you come up towards the S's, which are the most spectacular part of the circuit. The front end of the car can get airborne over these crests, and we've got a nice static camera angle there to see how Michael Taliancic goes. Looks like a nice clean run through the S's for him. Barely put a foot wrong there. What about South Bend? Very easy to run wide there, but he keeps it on the grey stuff. Then up to Oak Tree, keep it on the brakes, don't lock them, don't run wide, and put the power down nice and smoothly out of Oak Tree. And then you get the run down this magnificent back stretch, and you see the patch of tarmac that Michael Taliancic is passing right now. That is Madison Avenue, the unofficial turn 13 that we were talking about just before. Then it's up to roller coaster, brake as late as you dare, bear left, and then it's a hard right over the crest of the hill, and then you plunge down into the valley and towards Hogpen. Taliancic struggling to get the power down nicely out of there. The car can snap quite easily through these low elevation changes, but a nice clean run out of Hogpen. Slightly misses the final apex, but it's not going to trouble him too much, and that is a lap of VIR.
And it is across the line, 1:47.7 for Michael Taliancic then as the first representative time, but Brady Myers of 47.3 puts it good. Gilliam fastest, 46.8 now as Jordan Ross goes fourth on a 47.1 with those times, but every driver looking for something. There's the KSV painting Gone Rogue Motorsports car of Jack Boyd in the pretty purple, trying to get a good run. I believe that's Jordi Sinai just in front, which is not going to make life easy. So Forzan El Nabi to the top, Jared Filsell to the top, Dane Warren to the top. 1:46.5, magical lap times as they go on through. Madison Down goes fourth, but time upon time upon time, they find what they need.
Well, Dane Warren, now a privateer after leaving Altus Esports a couple of weeks back, shows that he has lost none of his pace, even though he's doing the majority of the work on his own with his mates. A great time from Dane, and that is the fastest time we've seen in the entire session so far. That includes practice. It's going to be difficult for the guys to beat that.
Oh, absolutely. And Dane Warren proves it again and again and again. Over one lap, he struggles to be beaten when it comes to racing. Tom Freer dives down into the pits. He's not happy with his lap. He's down near the back of the field, and he needs to find another go again at it. As whoa.
That's El Nabi.
A bit of a slide there for Zan going on through. Effective net championship leader at this stage. Knows he's got to keep gaps to rivals behind, like Madison Down and Andrew Gilliam and co. are all there. You can see a little slide from Forzan through that section of road, but then, he just catches grass on entry, and that is a very much, I would say, Panther-like reflexes there to save that vehicle.
Yeah, for sure. And you'd want to have the Panther-like reflexes, because if he put it in the wall and totaled the car, well, he wouldn't be able to take further part in the session if he had to escape back to pit road. So if El Nabi just keeps going and brings it back in, as you see him doing right here, right now, along with his teammate Jared Filsell, he can keep going, crucially.
Took the cone out for good measure as well going on through, so that was not ideal, as a replacement cone very quickly gets put up there by one of the stewards. So that was very nicely done as they go on through. The first real laps have been put into the book. It's a straight 250-kilometer race. You go from lights all the way over to flag. So what's going to be key here about this is that it's all about getting that big qualifying lap. This is why you're not going to be seeing people go for 2 laps on a stint, especially here with just how long the lap is and effectively how hot it all is at the moment. It's going to be about trying to piece everything together, and so many times I think a lot of drivers are thinking about that one lap and trying to get it going here. And of course, with 30 minutes, it's going to be a case of, well, who is going to find those little improvements right now? You've got drivers like James Scott in 7th, Richard Hampstead there in 6th, Andrew Gilliam in 5th. But you got people like Ethan Grigault down there in 10th place. Cooper Webster is there in 9th. It's all about putting the positions together, finding that extra little bit of pace, and just bringing that lap into a place that's needed. Harley Haber, for example, hasn't set a representative lap time. Likes of Corey Preston, Luke Pink, Zach Hanlon and Tom Freer all haven't. And here is Freer on screen looking to go and find that one lap.
Yeah, watching his build-up to this hot lap as well, you get an idea for what kind of preparations the drivers go through around a track like this with VIR, how treacherous it can be, and how different every single corner feels lap to lap. Oh, that's not going to help Freer. That would undoubtedly be an off-track 1X for him, which invalidates that lap right away.
And that's how easy it is. Of course, you cannot run off the circuit. You can't run into anybody else. You can't spin. You can't crash. And any one of those gives you an incident point, or so to speak, and that makes life doubly difficult here. Part of the iRacing off-track system that makes life so, so tough. As will the iRacing dynamic track here today, Reese, because you look at this place, it's going to rubber in incredibly quickly. You've got 41 cars that want to try and set lap times. This track is not going to get enough time to cure, and just like that, that rubber's going to set in, and that track is going to grip up and then fall away.
Yeah, exactly right. If there's a period in the middle of the session where there's no cars running on the circuit, or minimal cars running on the circuit, then the rubber will get an opportunity to cure, and they'll be able to get some grip back. But if it's if there's cars constantly driving over a section of this circuit, especially considering the track temperature of nearly 50 degrees, what you're going to notice is that on the racing line, it's actually a bit less grippy than it should be, or what you think it should be, rather. So Andrew Gilliam is going to be dealing with some of that here, getting the exit nice and clean out of Oak Tree as you see him emerge from the forest. Excellent job from Andrew Gilliam here in qualifying. He won both races at Mosport, remember, so he is still riding that high from last round, and he's shown himself to be Pursuit's best hope in this series.
Absolutely, back-to-back wins at Mosport last time out really cements Andrew Gilliam's status as one of the major players here in this series this season, and someone who could be searching for a major championship push at this moment in time. He has been absolutely fantastic. He's been mingling in the right circles. He's been looking for some great lap times, and a 46.883, I don't think does it there. So stays in 5th place for the time being, so that's not quite ideal. Needs a little bit more. It's 0.3 of a second off of Dane Warren here at the front of the field. This is James Scott, though. Red banner there, and the red going through signals he's the points leader without drops, so goes on through and is in 8th place because Sam Blacklock, just behind him, has gone into 6th.
He has too, on a 46.884. Excellent stuff for Sam, as we see Dane Warren bring it into the pits. He's abandoned that particular run. Warren's still on top with that 46.503, but Sam Blacklock in the Altus machine. Already, we saw Altus with some good results at Mosport. Sam Blacklock managing to get a good finish in race 2 last round, so that's certainly going to lift his spirits. What about the reigning champion, on the other hand, Jared Filsell, as we see Kenneth Latter come across the line? Kenneth is another guy that we've seen some great potential from in that Mach 1 Mustang, but no improvement for him this time around.
No improvement just yet, and that will be very interesting to see moving forward whether he can find that improvement. There is that was Kobe Jones hitting the lane. There is Ben Christensen in the nice green car there in the ANZ, trying to come over the line. 48.2 at the moment, not quite there at the time being, but needing to find a little bit more. He had a fantastic run before his last lap troubles, or penultimate lap troubles, which didn't get him into good stead at Mosport, so we'll be looking to try and find a bit better there, as we saw the likes of Andrew Dyson and co all looking to try and find some times. Myers is down the order as well, surprisingly, and this is why this is so difficult. Drivers will be out of position in qualifying if they just cannot find the lap early.
Yeah, and with the high track temperature, we've noticed in rounds that have a lot of heat in the track, it's always beneficial to get your lap time in as early as you possibly can, because the circuit just does not improve for the remainder of the session. If anything, it gets a little bit worse, so the drivers have to work harder to get the same times they were able to do before. And we saw a long line of cars pulling into the pits there, but Cooper Webster for Altus Esports, he is in 11th at the moment, and this particular time is not going to be a representative one from him. I believe he is starting a lap, but another good hope for Altus Esports there. They've got 3 cars now in the top 11.
And a whole boatload of drivers trying to put their times in on the board, including team boss Simon Feigl. So everybody looking for times right now, including Tom Freer here in 40th position, trying to get himself over half distance in qualifying, almost score complete. He is very much outside of 107% at this point, 38 seconds off of the pace. He is on his lap, and he gets a little wiggle through the roller coaster, which will be a little bit scary to try and deal with. Down the hill and looking for a lap over the line to get something of a semblance. Has been knocking on the top 10. I expect top 20 here today. Might just be where his qualifying lands him, and that is a 47.8 overall. That's only 31st, and the pace has gone at the moment from early on in the season.
Yeah, that's a shame to see, but you have to remember that VIR is a track that not all drivers gel with right away, and I should know, I'm one of them. But Tom Freer, hopefully he manages to gain some more time out of that. We see Sean Linsell set a 47.5. That puts him inside the top 30, which is good to see. That's the kind of improvement that I think Freer was hoping he'd make. Now we go back to Cooper Webster in the Altus Esports Holden. What can he do? Can he break into the top 10?
Well, he's not a million miles away from Ethan Warren in 10th place right now, so 2 Warrens in the top 10. Uses all of the road, trying to make that push. You can see on the timer how it starts to creep up. 46.5 the benchmark. That's a 47 flat, so that is not good enough to improve from Cooper Webster. He's 100th of a second behind Ethan Warren right now, and he would like a little bit more. There is Ethan Warren, brother to Dane, and trying to find a bit more in terms of time to get everything working together. Jordan Ross had a very, very good run last time out at Mosport, looking to try and find something similar. A 47.2 doesn't quite cut the mustard.
Yeah, that's a 10th down on his fastest time, and you see in as we're coming up to just about half time in the session, the track is gone now. There's no pace left in it. Ethan Warren setting a 47.0 and stays 10th. As a result of that, his fastest lap is a 46.987, and Madison Down as well, setting a time there and staying in 4th position. So it's going to be a bit of a struggle here for drivers to really improve later on in the session. And Kobe Jones there demonstrates one of the pitfalls of the roller coaster hogpen section. You go through that dip, you shift from 2nd into 3rd, and the rear just breaks away. It's going to be even worse on a hot track.
Absolutely, and that's going to be the worst thing that he'll be looking at going forward, is those sorts of mistakes. They can happen in the race as well. They've got to be all very careful about it. There's a lot of potential for safety car around this place, especially with just how aggressive you can have an accident around here. There's no real chances for stoppages in certain places, but a 47.7 there for Damien Johnstone jumps him up a handful of places, a half dozen there, up into 27th place. So Damien Johnstone starting to find a little bit of fun. It's a 2-stop race here today though, Reese, but there is an incredibly wide window for those 2 stops. So the strategy, so to speak, can be any number of laps that could be the right time to stop.
Yeah, absolutely. In some previous rounds, we've had a bit of a fuel tank restriction, but here in the standard round, there is no restriction on how much fuel you can put in the tank. You can fill it out all the way to 111 liters. I did a little napkin maths just before we went live, and determined that a full tank is going to get you 27 laps around VIR. And of course, with a track this hot, the tires are not going to last anywhere near that long. So really, I think the best option is to really space out your stints. Don't push too hard. Don't put too much fuel in the car right away. I mean, even if you decide to fill the tank up full, you could potentially take a pit stop for tires only early on, and then go for the long fuel fill and a long run to the end. There's an infinite amount of possibilities here.
Absolutely. Philip Worley there in the simrigs.com DPR card, brand new title sponsor for them, doing quite well, 19th place at the moment. Andrew Dyson just ahead in 16th at this point in time. So some good times coming in. Michael Schreier, haven't seen much of him so far today. He's down now in 39th place overall, and we'll be looking for a little bit more than that at the moment. There's Jack Boyd, dirty person off the road through the final corner. That's called taking a bit too much out of the final corner.
Yeah, and that's going to invalidate that lap time, and it's not quite quick enough to improve anyway. What about Clint Smith? He's in 40th and dead last. 1 minute 48.162 is the time that he is on for the moment, and he is starting a lap. And Harley Haber, another driver that we have to focus on. We talked about him just before the qualifying session went off, and he's currently sitting down there in position 14. He's going to need a few tenths if he wants to break back into that top 10, but he's going to abandon that particular run. This is going to be a very crazy final 10 minutes if we want to get all of these drivers improving.
Absolutely, and it's going to be a very, very interesting battle towards the end. Now, here's Blake Purdy in the 12th position right now. Someone who I think is a very, very dark horse candidate to be Andrew Gilliam's teammate when it comes to the Enduros. And Blake Purdy is someone who is going from strength to strength, and someone who is not very old in terms of his experience in the car, so will be just gaining more and more and more, and has been knocking on that top 10 and has just not found a way to break through the glass ceiling and get top 5s and top 3s and really get onto that next stage. This could be the race it happens if dramas happen to some of the more familiar names in this field, as Warren again comes in for another stop. There's his former team boss Simon Feigl out there in 18th.
And Feigl just coming up to the end of a hot lap here. Hopefully he doesn't bring it into the pits so we can see a representative time here. Currently in 18th position. He's on actually the exact same time as Jake Maloney, a 47.306. So if he can improve on that, which he does not, unfortunately, that's going to be more work for Simon Feigl. to break up further into the top 15.
Yep, and that's the issue. Just drivers getting close, but not being able to find a little bit more. There is the 201 of Andrew Gilliam in the Pursuit sim racing car, looking for something more to challenge those at the front there in 5th position. He is someone who is effectively, you could say, the Tinker Man, like Claudio Ranieri, some would say, because he always knows what he needs to do with the setup to find a little bit more pace. He's someone who has got all of the tools down pat to be a wonderful asset to any team.
Yeah, and I think Pursuit will want to hold on to him as long as they possibly can. He seems quite dedicated to the team that he is with. They work as a unit, do Pursuit.
Scott.
Oh, hello. Scott up into 5th.
Time to put some money down on the table, Mr. Gilliam. Down in 6th place, outside 3rd row. Now needs to find something more, but dives down onto the lane. The time was falling away on the relative that he would have had, so now needs to find just something else to put that together. There is Madison Down, the leading Trans-Tasman racing car in 4th position at the moment, has put on a great run of consistent finishes. Didn't work out for him, though, last time out at what was Mosport, so needs to find a good result today, has to dive down onto the lane. He often finds himself on the wrong end of the stick, so to speak, and Madison, if he's on the right end of the stick, wins championships.
Yeah, once Madison gets into that zone, he's practically unstoppable, much like Jared Filsell. You know, those drivers that have been racing this car for an incredibly long time and know their way around it, have had lots of racing experience in this machine. They can just pull out something extra when they get up the top. But when it comes to battling back in the pack, Madison doesn't quite get the chance to show the skill that we all know he obviously has. He's won the official iRacing V8 series 10 times, has Madison. So definitely don't underestimate him if you're new to SCOPS.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the key. Madison Down has a rich and illustrious history, knows exactly what to do time and time again, and has put himself up there with some of the very, very best every single time. He has been in with an outside shot of the championship every time he has looked. Forza El Nabi, though, currently in 3rd position, looking for consistency. Now, here's the key to this championship right now. This has not been like the Jared Filsell era of a few years ago. So that's Blake Purdy stopped there on the outside of the circuit for the time being. But Forza El Nabi has brought together races through consistency, not necessarily finding wins all the time. Dane Warren's been taking wins, got the likes of Andrew Gilliam's taken a couple of wins. We've seen drivers up and down the order. James Scott took a win. It's been a case of different drivers have been picking up wins time and time again. It's all about that consistency value that every single time Forza El Nabi is challenging, and that's why he's got the net championship lead, some would say.
Yeah, agreed. And El Nabi winning both times out in split one at Sonoma earlier on in the season too. So it is all about that consistency. And Forzan, despite the technical dramas that we've seen him have, despite the incidents that he's been a part of, he's still managed to keep himself in that championship hunt, which is the most important thing, especially now that we are just past half of the season, as we see Luke Pink across the line, set 47.448. Not going to be an improvement for him.
I just want to keep an eye out on Corey Shepherd currently, who is in 12th position, because this is a great qualifying by him out on track at the moment for the Premier Racing team. And what is so very, very crucial about Corey Shepherd right now is that he is part of a team that's looking to improve. Clint Shane Smith, Brian Borg, all of those sorts of names starting to build some momentum. And Corey Shepherd has been the one driver that I think has really kicked on and has really started to show that he has top 10 pace.
Yeah, you can definitely see that from this session with Shepherd in 12th, and it's only a 10th or so that he needs to gain in order to get into the top 10. So hopefully we see him back out on the circuit at some point before the end. Only 5 minutes to go, so the drivers will only be able to get one more lap in from this point. And that's going to be a sticking point for Andrew Gilliam here. in 6th. Remember, pipped by Sam Blacklock a couple of times ago. Managed to work himself back up, but yeah, unfortunate there. And I made a little bit of a mistake there. It's actually James Scott that pipped him to 5th place, getting my Altus drivers confused. Gilliam ultimately deciding that lap wasn't worth pursuing.
No, absolutely not. And for a pursuit car that doesn't want to pursue, that's a problem. Brett Loxton, though, Zuba Racing car, 31st position right now. Feels like he's started to turn a corner with everything going on and look to try and find a time over the line. It's a 47.852. That's not going to be much improvement there from 31st position, but 31st to 21st is only 0.4 of a second right now, so that's going to be a little bit concerning in the final few minutes to try and gain an extra place here, an extra place there. It's always a tough tall order when you're effectively pulling teeth out trying to find time.
Yeah, pulling teeth to try and find time, I think, is a very apt description of what it's like to do a qualifying session at VIR. It seems like you're on a good lap, but if you push a little too hard in one corner, then it affects the entire sequence of corners ahead, particularly through this section that Madison is going through now. Madison himself staying in 4th, but has actually set a personal best lap, a 46.74. So I think he'll be happy with that level of improvement, but he's still got to find 2 and a bit tenths if he wants to run at pole position, which I think is going to be hard to find in the final few minutes.
I've just been looking over the times, and it was a 46.754, a 46.749, and now a 46.746. So he has been going quicker, but the issue is he's found less than 100th of a second through all of that time, and 3 quicker laps time and time again. Now that's going to be really frustrating. You find time, but you only find 100th, and you only find a couple thousandths here and there. A couple thousandths don't close down a quarter of a second.
No, certainly not. So Madison, I think, will be drawing his attentions more towards the race now, as we take a look at Kurt Stenberg, teammate to Madison down. Also part of the Trans-Tasman Racing squad. He's sitting in 23rd at the moment. 47.493 is the time that he has set, and that was his second lap right at the start of the session. So I don't know if Stenny's going to be able to improve on this one, but he's certainly given it a red-hot go as we see a big slide there out of Hogpen. No, he's bringing it in.
He certainly is. He's a driver who's maybe a little bit frustrated at the moment, struggling maybe to see some of the benefits of racing right now when he's in the mid-pack, and struggling to make any progress forward and really gain up the same way that other drivers have done. So maybe it's something that he may want to go away for a little bit and maybe try and find some pace somewhere else, and maybe come back with a rejuvenated idea, or maybe go out and try and forge a career somewhere else. That's maybe something he may be thinking of in the back of his mind. Brady Myers currently 15th though, and on the brakes will not be able to find more laps because he's down on pit lane, but we got the 2-minute warning coming up, and of course Harley Habler now in 16th, looking to try and find some time. That top 16 looks very, very aggressive, and looking towards the racing, I have to say, those early stages, they're going to have to be filled with a lot of trepidation and caution here, Reese.
Yeah, they will. Especially you can see just how close the times are. I mean, that top 16 rounded out by Harley Haber, that's 0.7 of a second covering all of those drivers, and there's just minute gaps between them. So if you make one error, or on the inverse, if you make one good decision on lap 1, you stand to gain a lot. Andrew Gilliam, meanwhile, will look to try and improve his chances for that lap 1 melee. A 6th place start is good enough in my opinion, but he'd want to improve, of course. He's not going to this time, and I feel like that's going to be the last time we see Andrew Gilliam in this session. We've only got a minute to go.
Exactly. Not enough time to get out and around to set a lap time around this place, and that's what drivers need to be thinking of. Those who are out on track will be able to set those lap times. Tom Freer searching for something. He's managed to climb up to 21st place with some good times, so he's been working well in the 707 car, and at the moment trying everything to gain a slight bit more, trying to push down into the lane. That's it. Brenton Hobson, though. Hobbo88 streaming right now, live on Twitch. He is, and he will look to try and find some time. A 48.7 is not that time, so this will be the big lap that he will be searching for at this moment in time. Luke Pink was going on to start a flying lap as well in the Panther Fuels car, with the timer starting to tick down to 0. Who's going to be the last car over the line to set those times? It won't be Ethan Grigalt in 9th position, though. Someone who thought that he may have had a cakewalk at the start of the season, but commitments elsewhere, and of course the pace not being exactly where he expected it to be, have contributed to him playing a bit part role over the course of this season at this point in time. So drivers searching for a bit more. The checkered flag is out. Time has expired. Little slide going through, leading Harley Haber over towards the line as well right now is Ethan Grigalt, searching for some times, and those who are on the board searching for a bit more. A lot of them have dived down onto the lane. Has Haber got a little bit more to find in terms of time? Crossing over the start-finish line, it's a 47.1. That's a good effort there from Harley Haber. Gains a place, jumps to 15th. Oh my goodness me, who was that?
Whew. Your guess is as good as mine. That looks like it was Luke Pink with an error down at Oak Tree there. Or in particular, that particular incident. Jordan Ross is bringing it in. I'm noticing that Richard Hampstead is currently on a hot lap as well. He got towed along by Madison down the back straight. Hampstead currently sitting in 8th. He is going to need couple of tenths of a second in order to break into the top 5. Down brings it in, and Hampstead actually runs right off the track, so that's not going to be a time for him. Down, though, crosses the line, and it's a 46.776, 300ths of a second down on his current fastest time.
Yep, that was the big hurt that comes along. Forza Nabi will dive it down onto the lane. I believe Blake Purdy's out there on a lap as well at this stage, trying to find something in the Pursuit Sim Racing car. 13th at the moment. Lucky for some, unlucky for others. Through the left and into the final right at the hog pen. And you can see you really do descend down the hill, and you try and put the power down on as early as you can, and it's straight into the pits. He goes. Brady Myers also straight into the pits. He goes as well. So ultimately almost everybody done when it comes to qualifying laps. Only Robin Kirk is out there on a something, and that something will be a nothing as he dives down on into the pits. Jordi Sinai is out there, one of the final drivers to search for a time at the moment, and looking. It is going to be a case of hoping, waiting, not finding. Kenneth Latter, similar situation as well. So pretty much everybody done then in terms of qualifying. We'll take you through the starting grid now, and this is how everybody is going to stack up then in terms of this fantastic VIR 250-kilometer race. And well, it is Dane Warren who finds the time that is very much needed and puts the car up on pole position. That is absolutely fantastic in terms of what was needed by him. Alongside Dane Warren will be Jared Filsell, then on a 146.630, a tenth and a quarter behind. Forza El Nabi, his teammate and championship leader Net, is in 3rd place, with Madison down in 4th. James Scott is 5th, with Andrew Gilliam, winner last time out twice, only gets 6th place. Sam Blacklock, great qualifying, back to form for him in 7th, with Richard Hampstead in 8th place. Following that is Ethan Grigalt and Ethan Warren.
In 11th place, Cooper Webster manages to secure himself alongside Corey Shepherd with an excellent run from him for Premier in 12th. Blake Purdy makes it 13th alongside Jordan Ross, with Harley Haber just breaking into the top 15 at the end of the session. Brady Myers starts alongside him in 16th place. Andrew Dyson, who we've seen take a couple of split 2 wins this season, starts from 17th place with Jake Maloney alongside him. Simon Feigl, the manager of Altus Esports, starts from 19th, with the top 20 rounded out by DPR's Philip Worley.
Maloney and Feigl had the same times as Tom Freer, starts 21st, with Luke Pink in 22nd position. Someone who has a lot of eyes on him from Evolution Racing Team. I know that Brenton O'Brien has loved talking up Luke Pink earlier on in the year. Kurt Stenberg 23rd with Sean Linsell in 24th. Michael Talianchich and Corey Preston on row 13. Damien Johnstone for Gone Rogue has our Super Split 2 winner Thomas Hinds alongside for row 14 with Darren Lobb and Zach Hanlin making up 30.
Jordi Sinai manages to slot in just outside the top 30 alongside Brett Loxton. Kenneth Ladder and Jack Boyd in 33rd and 34th. Kobe Jones and Ben Christensen on row 18. It's going to be an interesting start there for Christensen all the way back there, as well as Robin Kirk and Brenton Hobson. That's going to be quite the stream to watch, him starting from 38th position. Michael Schreier and Clint Shane Smith take up the final row of this 40-car grid. And we are in the race session. That is the conditions. 52 degrees now, the track temperature, and the sun is out there and blazing.
And it's a 48-lap race here today. They must make 2 stops, and by the calculations of Reese's fuel numbers, that means that we could have anybody stop on lap 1, and get themselves over the line with 2 stops here today for this event. This is going to be a tough battle that everyone's going to be on with. And there is Dane Warren at the front of the field. A familiar face behind in Jared Filsell. The likes of Forzen El Nabi there as well is always going to be a very interesting concept to try and watch. That start's going to be key though. Who's going to be able to unlock what they want here today? Endurance season is not a million miles away at this point. And that next month into August is going to be something really worth keeping a watch here as they go on through. Now, car 13, that's Luke Pink, will have to start this one from pit lane because of the escape rule being broken, but that's the green flag, and that's the go, and that has really shocked a lot of people. Dane Warren has got an absolute flyer off the line, and look at how they all merge behind. El Nabi's through on Jared Filsell as they hit the brakes into turn number 1. It's 3 wides to go through. Madison down there with a bit of contact there with Filsell. I think Filsell may be in a bit of trouble as they all file on through, and they just about get away with it as they file on by. So Filsell dropped right back down in the pack, but there is Hampstead going through, getting things going. Filsell back to 32nd.
That is an awful start for Jared Filsell.
Oh, Kobe!
And oh my goodness, Kobe Jones right off there at the left hook, and Corey Shepherd having to find his way back onto the circuit as well after his 12th place start. He's been mired back in the pack due to an incident in the first couple of turns. And who is that going off there in the background?
Did not see that one happening so quickly, but we funnel on through side by side. They go through the S's. Oh, that's brave Ethan Warren. Oh. And that's Andrew Gilliam as well, who will have to take the slowdown then on the opening lap as well as they all fight through. It's such a scary start. A number of incidents, a few bifurcations there, especially for Kobe Jones. But ultimately, they all get themselves nicely through here. The oak tree, except if your name is Jordan Ross.
Oh my goodness, that's a big shame for Jordan. It looks like a little bit of rear contact there. The number 22 of Brady Myers trying to get himself up inside. But Myers himself facing a lot of trouble here from the DPR machine. The number 41 of Andrew Dyson got a teammate behind him there in Simon Feigl, but Feigel's not going to be able to do much here as we see he's right at the front of this very aggressive train.
Absolutely, and it's these trains that are crucial. Dane Warren leads this one. Forzen El Nabi second. James Scott now up to third with Sam Blacklock fourth and Madison down in 5th place as they all streamline down the front stretch, or up and then down the front stretch. And there is Michael Talianchich off the road for Pursuit Sim Racing. To the back of the train you go, son. And that's not going to be ideal for Michael Talianchich there. And it's so easy to lose it. Kurt Stenberg is in the pits and potentially out.
Yeah, and Andrew Gilliam, it looks like, has just been passed by Ethan Warren in the first sector. Also some news from race control. Jared Filsell's night has just gone from bad to worse. It's been revealed that he broke the no escape rule 3 times during qualifying, and he's been given another black flag. He's still going to try and force one up the inside of the Exto Gaming Mustang and try to hold it around the outside. Great move there. That is the Jared Filsell that I remember, but almost overcooking it there on the exit. This is going to be a big fight, but Filsell knows that he's got a penalty hanging over his head.
Bump, bump, go on through, why don't you? Trying to give a little push here and a push there, and ultimately keeping the place that in 21st he is at this point in time. Little slide from Christensen there going on forward, but look at this for 4th and 5th, the former teammates Blacklock and Madison Down, two very good friends of each other right now, having a good scrap at this stage, and Mads looking at which way he can go and attack. He may have to look to the inside if he wants to make this one happen. That turns to the outside because apparently there is a forest full of bears on the left-hand side according to Reese, but down the hill they go, no worries at all, and positions stay as they are as we look at in-camera perspective at Sam Blacklock.
Blacklock, one of a minority of drivers that actually uses the sequential gear stick to change gear. You see him doing it there. Most drivers use the paddles on their steering wheel, but Sam Blacklock keeping it as realistic as possible. And to boot, it looks like he's a right foot braker as well. Watch his legs as he comes into the braking zone. You see his left leg there engaging the clutch and allowing him to shift down through the gears. So when you talk about old school, Sam Blacklock is as old as it gets.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what Sam Blacklock's going to be doing, working hard throughout the race, and will be trying to put things together with James Scott and co there. Look at Richard Hampstead, though. Ever as difficult to pass as he ever has been. Ethan Grigholt has been here a million times before. Cooper Webster has also been there before as well, and will also be looking to try and get the way through.
Yeah, certainly will. This is a tough fight back here. Webster right on the back of this train. Richard Hampstead, of course, one of the biggest defenders in V8 SCOPS. You're going to have a very tough time getting by him at the best of times, but Cooper Webster is watching Ethan Grigholt here put the pressure on the inaugural SCOPS champion. Richard Hampstead, of course, winning the test season that was done to as a bit of a proof of concept for V8 SCOPS back in 2014. So he knows how to win, does Hampstead, but he's not quite where he needs to be at the moment. And Ethan Grigholt in the draft and pushing very hard.
Absolutely. Oh, Cooper Webster, how sideways do you want to get there on the brakes behind Ethan Grigholt and find a way through? It's not quite the way that you want to see it, but ultimately they keep themselves nicely in a line. Forza El Nabi there in second, James Scott in third. I want to keep a little focus on that for the time being as we look behind at Richard Hampstead, at Richard Hampstead's perspective here, seeing Ethan Grigholt just there, but that gap at the front has not been as breakaway as maybe liked, as here's the little look down on the brakes on the inside, not quite finding it just yet, but right up underneath. Madsen Down finds the move finally then on Sam Blacklock, moves up into 4th place. Motum Simulation Replay, Reese, take us through it.
Yeah, and this is down at the horseshoe, the prime overtaking spot down in the draft, and just hammers it on the brakes. Blacklock gives him the room as they do. Down and Blacklock very respectful around each other, and that is how you get a move done at VIR nice and cleanly. Down's already gapping him. Meanwhile, Jared Filsell, having served his penalty, oh dear, that is a problem for Feigl. Every time I want to try and talk about Filsell, something seems to happen.
Yep, and that is Simon Feigel's run into troubles. Motum Simulation Replay will get a good look at this one then. So going through turn 1 and 2, he was on his own out there on the road, trying to stay with the pack behind, but it doesn't look like it's gone well. We've seen another car off. We'll get a look at that in a moment here with the Motum Simulation Replay. We'll stay with it, but Simon Feigl here, catches the grass, goes for a massive spin, and ultimately has to wait for the whole train to go through. Now, this is what happened to Madison Down here. He's lost 7 places because of this one small mistake, and this is how easily it happens here, Reese, that you get mistakes. They're very heavy over the curbs going through here. Maybe South Bend is where the troubles start, and going on through, he's nice and good through there, but it must be the oak tree then where it goes wrong for Madison Down.
Yep.
On the brakes, you can see he locks up the front, missed his marker by about 10 meters, and that's how easy it goes away.
And fortunate that Down was able to keep it out of the wall. That's very good car control there, but of course it is right at the start of the long back stretch. Meanwhile, hearing news of a drive-through for Brady Myers, and that was for the incident with Jordan Ross on lap 1. So that's not a great time there for the Altus Esports driver. Meanwhile, it looks like Ethan Grigholt has managed to pass Richard Hampstead.
Yeah, of all things, it's a blue moon. Richard Hampstead being overtaken. Motum simulation replay then up on screen for this. And this has been key in terms of the way that Ezy Finance wants to run this. Sixth gear, trying to find a way through on the brakes, just getting a nose down the inside. Hampstead forced to leave some room. And that is Ethan Griggold masterminding the late move.
Good move. Very good move from Ethan. And props to Hampstead as well for giving him the room needed. That's how you can tell who the best drivers are in this series. They get into a high-pressure racing situation and they keep their cool. They leave the room just enough and no less. But have a look at Ethan Griggold going slightly wide. That was Ethan Warren. Ethan Warren going off at Oak Tree just behind them. That looked like another case of the missed braking point.
Exactly, and trying to get back going, but has to wait for everyone. He'll come back right on the racing line, and that was not good. We just saw that very late, and I think he's hit an Exto Gaming car on that rejoin. So Ethan Warren here in the 59 car. Well, this is where it goes wrong in the matte black machine at this stage. Goes on through, yeah, just overcooks it. Tyres on the grass. That was a 2 meters missed on the braking zone. Trying to get through. Now, this is Corey Preston, who never seems to find too much fun with this. He gets away with it okay, so it'll be Sean Linsell then who gets the hit. And there's the rejoin. Bang! Into him he goes, and that was not what Sean Linsell wanted. And just like that, I think there may be a penalty incoming for a poor rejoin.
Yeah, definitely. It seems pretty clear-cut to me. On he comes onto the circuit, and Linsell, already committed to Oak Tree, can't really alter his line from there. So that is a case of very unfortunate timing back there. So I'm sure we'll expect race control to come out with some more news shortly. Meanwhile, Ethan Griggold has actually gapped Richard Hampstead slightly, and Hammer is starting to come under quite a bit of pressure from Cooper here.
Absolutely, in this fight for 6th and 7th position on the road. Behind that, 8th, 9th, 10th, Gilliam, Haber down. All there together, all trying to move on forward here in what has been a very, very hectic race. The start of proceedings here, and everybody trying to get something. Lap 6 of 48. Do want to point out, though, that Forzan El Nabi, you haven't seen any of him since the start of this race in 2nd place. Look at that, staying within 7/10 of a second of your race leader, Dane Warren, who was expected from qualifying to run away with this one. Not the case at this stage. Forzan and James Scott keeping company.
Yeah, and the draft down the straights is going to be what's doing that for them. They just need to make sure that they stay within draft range when they get to the exit of Oak Tree and when they get to the exit of Hog Pen as well. That's what's allowing them to stay within that range. And I also want to point out Harley Haber is now in the top 10 after having started 15th. He's actually driven quite a good race so far, has Harley. He's managed to avoid most of the drama and is now chasing down Andrew Gilliam for 8th.
Exactly, and that's the key here, as Phil Sell's got a drive-through penalty for contact, so that's not ideal for him. Harley Haber, though, at this stage, 9th position. There's Richard Hampstead, though, 6th position, and that would be an Australian 9th place as he goes and loses that Australian 9th place for the moment. Is that a bit too deep there going on through? Oh, you bet it is. Richard Hampstead, gather that one back up and under. See you later, mate.
Yeah, good old over-under, and that's a oh no, Philip Worley off at turn 1, demonstrating how you can very easily mess that up. But that battle between Webster and Hammer shows how you can really come back at a rival out of the horseshoe. The open exit, it still bends, but you get the power down nicely. You can scythe your way back through. And Cooper getting a good run down this straight, but of course the S's come up next. He can't take advantage yet.
No, not just yet. He's got to try and really get a slingshot through the South Bend if he wants anything to come of it. So getting a good run down the hill. Maybe a search here at this Oak Tree section. Not quite there to make a move just yet. It's Cooper Webster in the 37 car, but has the ability to do the unexpected, and that's always a case of worry for those who see those battles and think that they have what it takes to go out there and be at the top. Cooper Webster can be very unpredictable at the best of times, and I believe Jake Maloney may have just dropped back a little bit to redress the position potentially with Philip Worley. So we'll take a look at this. So here's Maloney slowing. I believe that's Worley coming up next in terms of the cars in the train. So he drops back behind down to 21st position overall. So a lot of time being lost there from Jake Maloney. In fact, he has redressed it to Philip Worley.
Yeah, looks like it. So Philip there continues on, and I want to draw some attention briefly as we see Cooper Webster trying once more on Richard Hampstead. The gap at the front has really gone down in the last couple of laps. It was 0.3 of a second at the line between Warren and El Nabi, so Forzan is starting to pick up the pace here.
I wonder if this is a case of long stint versus short stint strategies. I think that Dane Warren's got a better one-lap pace car, but I don't think he's got a better race car underneath him at this stage. Sam Blacklock there in 4th place, being chased by Ethan Grigalt in 5th, and that is Jake Maloney in the tyres there. Car number 29, Trans-Tasman Racing, in all sorts of trouble. Motum Simulation replay of this one then, as he was fighting out with one of the Expo Gaming cars here, trying to find a way back through. So, looks left, looks right, hits the brakes down in towards turn number 1. It looks okay for the moment, but through the corner, way too much, and that is a very scary incident.
That certainly is, and we take a look at Luke Pink here, slowing down. This might be a redress from what we can see.
That would have been the Worley redress.
Yeah, that is for an incident with Philip Worley. There we go, but man, stay on the replay because something has happened to Blake Purdy up in the S's section. What has gone on for the pursuit driver here? Might have happened at Oak Tree.
Well, let's have a look then. Goes through here at the South Bend, and here at the Oak Tree, there's where the problems occur. On the brakes, up the hill. Is he too deep? Yep, it's another classic case of Oak Tree syndrome, and ultimately, there doesn't seem to be a cure at the moment.
Yeah, that's unfortunate there up at Oak Tree because you do have to push very hard in order to get the grip on the fronts in order to get the turn in right. But if you mess up your trajectory even slightly, you just catch the grass before the outside curb starts on the entry to Oak Tree. And that's what we've seen happening to quite a few drivers here tonight. Meanwhile, Forzan keeping the gap at about half a second, and Dane Warren, I think, starting to really feel the pressure as we get our first routine pit stop. Ethan Warren bring it into the pits. Oh no, not a routine stop. That would have been a
drive-through penalty. So Ethan Warren out and away again. That would have been for Sean Linsell. There's Thomas Hinds, and that definitely looks like a routine stop for Thomas Hinds, but there's no rear wing for Hinsey, so he's been involved here and there. Back to the race lead though. Dane Warren, Forzan El Nabi, and James Scott as well, all within 1.2 seconds of each other as they head up through the Oak Tree once again, looking to try and open the run off the exit and now attack this long straight as they go on through. Again, Dane Warren's just carrying so much speed through the corner that he's got himself 3/10 there just through that section alone, putting the power down.
Yeah, it's all about the exit from Oak Tree. You can rotate the car a little on the exit and just ride that rotation all the way out. Warren seems to have that down pat, but everywhere else, particularly here in the final sector, Forzan El Nabi seems to have a bit of an advantage. Meanwhile, Ethan Grigalt continuing his slow advance up through the top 10, right on the back of Blacklock now.
And with Cooper Webster just behind him, it is a ultra sandwich with an egg filling at this stage. And they all look to try. And a second drive-through penalty coming in then for Jared Filsell, who's not having a good night at all, ladies and gentlemen. But right now, you got Ethan Grigalt here, trying to get close here, on the brakes in. And now look at Richard Hampstead. All of that pace, a little bit of half contact there going through, or a checkup from Ethan Grigalt there through that section. Didn't look like much. But that is just the hold-up that's there. And I think Sam Blacklock may be trying to back Ethan into Cooper.
Yeah, looks like it. Certainly seems like Cooper had a bit of a go at Ethan on the exit of the horseshoe there. And of course, this is going to bring them back into the clutches of Richard Hampstead as well. Of course, Hampstead getting passed by both Grigalt and Webster in the last few laps. So this is a little bit of a lifeline for Hammer.
Absolutely, and that's going to be key then as they move on forward and try and get themselves every single position. And this is the worry: you get stuck in a train, you get caught in the tram line, so to speak, and you end up just driving the same pace. That's the last thing they would want, using all of the track up at the Oak Tree, down the hill and back towards the start-finish straight they'll be looking to try and get to soon, but you can see how 4th place now, 7 seconds back after 10 laps worth of racing. It really is a front 3 and then everybody else in terms of this race, and over 48 laps, unless there's a safety car, this one is going to look like it's front 3 or bust for the race win.
Yeah, definitely looks like it, but we still have to wait and see how the strategy works out when it comes to pit stop time, and we should be expecting more drivers to come in for routine stops very shortly. Of course, Dame Warren and Forzan El Nabi up there out the front and working hard at their stint. And that looks like a bit of an issue there for Brady Myers on the exit of Oak Tree, slightly narrow. Of course, Myers is another one of those drivers that has not had the best of nights. Let's have a look at the replay then, and it looks like, yep, as we've seen many times before, just pushing a little too hard into the entry to Oak Tree, and the grass is there waiting.
Now, one of the difficulties of that Oak Tree section is that it's difficult at the best of times, but this is not even the best of times at this stage, Reese, because of the track temperature. This is conducive to understeer. These vehicles are horrific to try and drive. They have understeer, they have oversteer, they have every kind of steer. If they were in a Willy Wonka chocolate factory, they'd have slantway steer.
My goodness, yeah, I reckon good analogy there. But with this track temperature, you are right, it does add that extra element of difficulty. The drivers just need to brake a little bit earlier into Oak Tree, take a little bit easier through this right-hander they're going through now. But of course, these are some of Australia's best sim racers, and they are going to push the limit whether you tell them to or not. Ethan Griggault in the draft of Sam Blacklock. Is he going to be close enough to try and get a move done? I don't know if he's going to dive one up the inside here at the roller coaster. No, actually lifts off just before the braking zone. Leaves it for another lap. Also helps him to save a bit of fuel as well. Now, fuel saving is not going to be the be-all, end-all of strategies here, but it certainly will help.
Certainly will. And now Madison Downs starting to close in on the pack here as well. So everybody closing in. The Sam Blacklock train, well, you'd make Jarno Trulli very proud of this one at the moment here. Ethan Griggault cannot find any way through at this stage, but this could be the chance. Closing right up here, looking for this chance, searching for the inside line, and oh, it's late. Has to lock up the front. Contact as they go through, and more bump to bang as they go on through. 3 separate bits of contact from everybody in the train. Unfazed slightly there is Sam Blacklock there. Not much worry going on after that little bit of contact, but it will be in the back of the mind as he hits the brakes and goes through the left hook towards the right hook and the snake.
He's holding up against this pressure magnificently as Sam, especially considering how tight it is in the first sector. You see the drivers getting onto the grass there through the snake. You got to straight line those corners, otherwise there is no potential for speed down this straight heading on into the S's. And Blacklock, it seems, with the clear air ahead of him, he's got the clearest line of sight through those S's. He knows exactly where to go. Ethan Griggault has to more feel his way around the circuit here. Coming up to Oak Tree for the 12th time now. And Ethan is actually closer to Sam than he ever has been down the back straight. Could this be the move we were waiting for?
Well, here's the chance then for Ethan Griggault. He does not want to be an egg sandwich no longer. Oh, he goes to the outside trying to get this one done. Has Blacklock got anything to counter this one then? On the brakes, nice and narrow as they go through. He's going to try and pinch him out of room, but he has to stay there. They stay side by side as they go on through. Everybody in the train starts to shuffle closer together, and contact they go through. Oh no, look at Cooper Webster. What a pivot that is to move up into 4th place. Ethan Griggault is now nowhere, and in come both Trans-Tasman cars.
That was a pure reaction there from Hampstead and Down. They saw the drama happening up ahead of them, and they thought, nope, we don't want to be a part of this. We're going to get into the pits, get ourselves some clear air, and away we go. But I think Ethan Griggault's going to be very disappointed with that one. It was just a case of side-by-side running between himself and Sam Blacklock, and the track is quite narrow through that section. So I reckon an incident was almost guaranteed to happen if Griggault didn't clear him.
Exactly, and that was the key then in terms of that little scrap, hoping that they were not going to run together too much, but ultimately a little bit of door banging here and there, and it did not work got a few drivers in, like to Blake Purdy as well, diving down in on the lane for the stop. Out and away goes, I believe, Madison Down then, and Richard Hampstead from the pits, and they look to get themselves going. There's Mads in 29th position. Richard Hampstead has a car in between in 27th and has really gained and profited off of that stop compared to Madison Down, so that really worked in Richard Hampstead's favour for that. Top three, though, look at this. James Scott, who's been quietly on the back of this pack at the moment. If we can get cameras to pivot over to third place, look at him, he's only half a second back, now down to 0.3 of a second right now. This suddenly is heating up. James Scott has really been biting the tyres on the fuel and tyres.
Yeah, he certainly has, and I just saw Dane Warren go a little bit too hard into Roller Coaster, which is giving a slight advantage to El Nabi behind, and James Scott is going to be loving this. Have a look at El Nabi's exit out of Hogpen. Really knows how to drive it out of that corner. He's now in the draft. Could this be a move for the lead? Slight technical issues for El Nabi. He's in the draft. He's forced to go to the outside. Actually lifts off as Dane Warren protects that first place, and now James right in on it.
Sam Blacklock has, I believe, come down into the pits, so he looks to try and make a stop then. Cooper Webster, Andrew Gilliam move up place. Ethan Grigott follows, and we'll once again see that vehicle that he did not want to in the stops. Top three, though, stay out. Lap 14 here of 48. We're already a quarter of the way through this race, and now 097 wants to find a way by 57, but they have to worry. 088 just behind will take any advantage necessary here in this one. And remember, James Scott has not won since opening race of the season, so that's a long time ago. February seems like an eternity from here.
Yeah, certainly does. I can barely remember February before everything went to some awful place in this world. But sim racing has continued all throughout, and these guys have maintained that excellent level of pace that they've had since that first round. So they're line astern, equidistant down the back straight once again. El Nabi has some brief looks there at Dane Warren, just I think more for engine cooling than anything else. You don't want to spend the whole of the back stretch behind another car. It'll just rise up your temperatures, increase the chance of your engine blowing.
Absolutely, and that's going to be key here, just making sure that everything works out in favour. Everyone goes on through, and there goes Dane Warren to make the first stop of the leaders, and James Scott decides to follow in. So Forzan's going to be out there on the older tyres, and this is a real worry in terms of that stop. The leader doesn't often make the first move, but that was the case.
Yeah, absolutely was, and they are both in now and monitoring what their pit stop times are. Webster, Gilliam and Haber go by them. Dyson goes by them. All of those drivers have yet to pit. And from the other pit stop times, it looks like we'd expect anywhere from about 15 to 20 seconds of standstill time for these guys. So still waiting. It looks like James Scott has actually beaten Dane Warren out of the pits.
Wow. Just like that, Dane Warren then doesn't get the best pit stop in the world. James Scott undercuts him in the stop and now takes the net race lead, but that's all dependent on a number of factors. They're out 10th and 11th on the road, just ahead of Ben Christensen there in 12th position, but that's so vital. Forzan now has to react to this and come down and make a stop.
Yeah, absolutely has to. And I want to point out something. James Scott's pit stop time was actually longer than Dane Warren's. It was the pit transit where Warren lost out. So he must have made some kind of error pulling up into his box. And that is a problem for Tom Freer in the pursuit car. And that's at NASCAR corner once again. We saw Tom Freer go off there earlier on in the race.
Well, he said at Oran Park he was more like a lawnmower, so I guess he's got the mowing services back out again as he tries to get back into racing action. 24th position right now with Damian Johnstone, I do believe that is, just behind in 25th in the Gone Rogue Motorsports car. But El Nabi stays out, so he's running to a number, is El Nabi. He's not going to play this reactory game. He's got a good stint length in mind. He's going to run to it, and he's going to try and make sure that he's playing that to the best possible advantage. The longer he stays out, the more time he loses on the fresh tyres. Absolutely, we get that. But what's going to be key for Forzan is he's going to be trying to overcut everybody else, use that fresh rubber that he will get to close any door back down.
Exactly right, and he's got the benefit of clear air ahead of him as well. He hasn't had to deal with a car in front of him now, as we see Philip Worley bring it in for a pit stop. He's going to fall back down the order, was in the top 10 just before he came in. So there is the effective race lead then. James Scott and Dane Warren with Sam Blacklock rapidly chasing them down in net third at the moment. Remember, we've got to wait for El Nabi to come back down onto the pits as we file through the order. And there's Ethan Greg-Gault, quite a few positions back from where he'd want to be.
Position 17, trying to get through a not yet pitted Jake Maloney and a twice pitted Jared Filsell, who's yet to make a regular stop and would still have to make 2 of those here in this race as well. So that's an awful weekend for Jared Filsell at this stage, but at the moment he's fighting for 30th place effectively on the road. He'll be looking to try and get back into the top 20, top 15 if possible come the end of this one. But we are 1/3 of the way through at the end of this lap. Lap 16 of 48 we are on right now. El Nabi yet to come down and make that stop, but keep an eye on Cooper Webster and Andrew Gilliam. That whole pack has all made stops. Ethan Greg-Gault has lost a lot of time, but we'll be seeing different fuel levels going into the vehicles here at this stage. These Holdens and Fords, as El Nabi, I do believe, has just decided to bite the bullet and come down onto the pits. He's splitting it up in thirds.
1/3 race distance, as said, and oh no, he's overshot his pit box as Forzan. That's going to cost him a lot of time as we see the number 37 Altus car come in, Cooper Webster. So now Harley Haber is going to assume the race lead on track. Still has yet to come in for his stop. We're going to have to wait and see what James Scott and Dane Warren do here. They've just come past the pit lane and down on the straight, well and truly securing that lead from El Nabi, who has only just exited the pits.
Speaking of securing, that's Dane Warren down the inside of James Scott, and securing he did, picking up the net race lead once again. So just like that, well worked. Dane Warren in control then at the front of the pack and doing exactly what is needed at this stage to make it all work out. So now through the next lefts and rights out on circuit, it's all looking good at the moment. There is Ethan Warren out on track, and there is a massive pack behind him because there's the 097 car of Forzan El Nabi. He has come out with Cooper Webster and Richard Hampstead and co, and that is effectively being bumped to the next tray.
Yeah, that's a big shame for El Nabi. If he hadn't overshot his pit box, he probably would have come out just behind Warren and Scott, but he's got the advantage of fresh tyres here, and he'll be able to start gapping Cooper Webster soon if he can keep it together. But right now, it looks like the likes of Harley Haber and Andrew Gilliam. Actually, as Gilliam come into the pits, I'm not seeing him up near the top. He has indeed. So we'll wait to see what Harley Haber does. He stays out for one more lap now, evidently looking to go for the extra long initial stint.
I believe a few drivers will be looking to try and come down in and make a stop. Darren Lobb at the moment locking up slightly, and they're around the outside. Oh, plain as day from Sam Blacklock to pick that one up. You can't really argue against that one if you're Darren Lobb in the DPR car. Just couldn't get the power down on the old tyres, and that was always going to be trouble. I think that's the signal. Dive down onto the lane, why don't we? And there it is. Ethan Warren under pressure is going to dive down as well in onto pit lane. So a few drivers going in. El Nabi's under pressure though. Cooper Webster. This is a fight for effectively 4th place here in this one, and on the brakes they go, not quite able to find it right now on Forzan El Nabi, who's just struggling a little bit with technical issues, as he has done over the course of the season. But just like that, this could be a case. Now, if Dane Warren had stayed at Altus, this could have been an Altus 1, 2, 3, 4 potentially.
Yeah, absolutely could have, but unfortunately, hindsight is not going to factor into it for those guys. What has happened, and they are focusing on the future. And Cooper Webster's future, it looks to be, is full of Ethan Warren and Forzan El Nabi.
And that is very, very clear. So now it's all about trying to go out there, attack, and pick up every position as and when needed. What is key about those stops is that despite coming in the earliest of anyone, freshest tyres of anyone, Richard Hampstead and Madison Down have not gained as much progress as I think they would have liked. They're still behind Cooper Webster. They're still there just sitting and waiting. They're ahead of Gilliam, ahead of Ethan Grigalt. That's good, but they took a little bit longer in terms of their stops.
Yeah, they did. But hopefully for them, that pays out towards the end of the race with a shorter pit stop to go through to the end. Once again, it's never quite over until the final car takes their final pit stop. So stay with us here. It's going to be an interesting conclusion to this one.
And what's very interesting is who they're approaching up on. It's Ben Christensen who's yet to stop. Harley Haber also yet to stop here in this one. He's clear, and Dane Warren's lost a lot of time. I think he's just lost the place. So eye on Dane Warren here. He has dropped back, has he, into third place? It looks like that's the case. It looks like there may have been a mistake going on, or potentially things that have been happening. So let's get a motion simulation replay, see if we can try and piece this one together. He's in third place at the moment behind James Scott. So something clearly has happened somewhere, and it looks like it hasn't happened immediately, but has dropped about 4 seconds. And you've got what's happened here, Reese.
Oak tree. Oh my goodness. There we go. Yep, safety car is out, and we'll be able to see what has ultimately caused this, because Dane Warren coming up through the S's, over South Bend, down to Oak Tree. And this is going to be a mirror image of something we've seen many times before. Catches the grass on entry and then hard into the tyre barrier. So something has happened, but after that to take the safety car out. And not quite sure what it is, because we see Jack Boyd there recovering from an off.
Oh, he's upside down. He's upside down. Jack Boyd goes upside down on the back stretch. So let's get it to the back stretch here, because Jack Boyd is upside down, and I don't quite know how that's happened. I've just caught that out of the corner of my eye, just looking at live footage. But Jack Boyd upside down on the back stretch, and I have a very sneaking suspicion that he has a moment of epic proportions that were not quite how he wanted them to be.
Well, we're going to find out very soon as we see him go up through the S's and over South Bend once again. And for it to happen on the back stretch, I mean, there would have to have been contact with another car, you would think. So out of Oak Tree, spins it, keeps it going nicely. And did this happen at the end of the back stretch, I wonder? Oh, there you go. Car goes hard to the left. That's a hardware failure for Jack Boyd.
Oh, it's a massive hardware failure. You can see he rolls all the way up over the circuit, and that would have been a scary one for him. The wheel suddenly snapping to the left. The race over for Jack Boyd. We're going to catch this. You can see dead straight, dead straight, dead straight. And now you're going to see this wheel. It's just going to snap hard. Full lock to the left. He goes through the DRS board and into the Armco barrier on the outside, and is upside down. Now, this is something else that's really crucial right now. Who's come in and taken stops here? Because Harley Haber, remember, was leading the race, has taken a free stop and comes out in 6th place. And because the wheels are still turning, Jack Boyd is technically still moving out on track. So Haber's back out now in 6th place. You've got the likes of Corey Preston now in 7th, Johnstone 8th, and Loxton in 9th. Because I have that sneaking suspicion that those sorts of drivers will be looking to come down into the pits pretty soon in terms of their runs. They're behind the safety car right now. James Scott leads. Dane Warren's got a lifeline in 2nd, and Sam Blacklock now in 3rd position. The race neutralised. This race, suddenly, as we head towards the halfway stage, well, it's just as much of an open book as it was for the opening 20 laps.
And speaking of lifelines, how about Forzan making that mistake in his pit stop and losing out there, battling for 4th? This safety car is going to bring him right back up to the back of the top 3. So he is going to have a very good chance here to really attack Sam Blacklock and Dane Warren and James Scott, the formerly an Altus 1-2-3, but now it's just an Altus 1-3 at the moment.
Yep, and going to be passing the stricken Jordan Ross there, upside down in the grass. And That's not quite what you want to see of a vehicle. It's some would say it's an upside down vehicle at this stage in time, and that is very much correct. But ultimately, James Scott in the lead of this race. But there are a few drivers out of position right now in terms of who have made stops, who haven't. You've got Corey Preston, Damien Johnstone, Brett Loxton, Sean Linsell, all there at the moment. You can see how much of a hardware failure it is because the wheels are still turning there for Jack Boyd. I think he's hoping someone's going to push him over and he's going to go.
Yeah, well, that's definitely no brakes there on the car, and looks like he's managed to get control of the steering back too, but unfortunately, he's not staring at a racetrack ahead of him, he's staring at the grass, so that's going to be a tow for him very shortly for Jack Boyd, but more cars. Ooh, I saw a bit of a fake there from that particular machine. Yeah, Damien Johnstone. It looks like we are seeing, oh my goodness, another fake.
Another fake.
Stop playing with my heart, guys. Come on.
Well, there's Jack Boyd. He's going to come down in. A few drivers are going to take the pit. So that will be Schreier, I do believe, who's come down in. And, of course, Brenton Hobson taking a pit. One of the Trans-Tasman cars, that will be Maloney in to take a stop. And early box there for, I believe, Kobe Jones. I do believe that is down on the lane. So those are a few pitters who are going to take this one late. But now this is a really interesting scenario here because if I'm correct, Preston, Johnstone, Loxton, Linsell all haven't made their first stop race.
Yeah, it does look like that. There have been some drive-through penalties, but I'm not quite sure. It looks like everyone has now made their initial pit stops, so looks like there's been a little more to happenings than we initially thought.
Well, that is crazy in terms of who's gained from that. Preston, Johnstone, Loxton, Linsell, they've all played the tactical MasterCard at this stage, and they have done some wonders here in this one. Look at that, started 26th up to 7th. Corey Preston's got a lot of work in front, and of course the two most combustible drivers in Haber and Preston together on the circuit. It's like water, and it is like some very much Group 1 metals. It's never, ever going to end nicely between those two, but Haber will look to try and break away early from this and try and get up with Cooper Webster and co as soon as possible. A lot of drivers will be looking to try and push through the field. Jordan Ross and Jordi Sinai will be trying everything to get back into position. Madison Down all the way back down in 15th place will be out of place at this stage, but we are going green this time by here, Reece, so this is going to be a little bit nerve-wracking for James Scott. Back in the lead again, hasn't been in the lead of a race since that Circuit Gilles Villeneuve race.
Yes, indeed. So, going to be a little bit of foreign territory here for James Scott, restarting this in the lead as Nick Parker starts pulling away in the OSR safety car. Dane Warren is going to have to be right on it, because we did see in the safety car in Split 2, Thomas Hinds left it quite late to get going. It'll be interesting to see when James Scott decides to go. As we mentioned before, the start zone is in Hog Pen between 17 and 17A. After that point, the drivers can go at any time they like. So is James Scott going to try and go early when his rivals still have to negotiate the turn?
That's going to be the question, and the safety car is going to pull away here through the roller coaster section, and now it's all on James Scott's shoulders then. Dane Warren, a former teammate, behind. Sam Blacklock, his teammate to James Scott, behind. And now you got Forzan El Nabi wants to get back in. Cooper Webster, Harley Haber, Corey Preston, all of whom want to get some good scores and results. This is going to be a very interesting restart here as they go down through the hog pen section. There goes James Scott, catching a little bit by surprise. Everybody get on going. We're back to green flag racing here at the end of 21. Start of 22 as they now go side by side. El Nabi immediately trying to get through on Sam Blacklock. Behind that, Hampstead trying to get through on Sean Linsell to get through, and that was one move done in the background. But here you got Preston immediately going through on Harley Haber as well. So it's all kicking off right now. Preston came to race as they go on through with Harley Haber. Haber's got the inside for 2 and 3 and holds it at the moment. And then goes Corey Preston.
Off at NASCAR corner. Just caught the grass on the right-hand side. Poor Corey. He was right up there, and that was a fantastic strategy call. Now he's going to have to do all of that work again, but the field streams through the snake and it's James Scott who maintains the lead from Dane Warren. He got a nice gap on him off of that restart, but Forzan El Nabi is right behind them and pushing incredibly hard.
Absolutely he is, and Forzan would love nothing more than to get back on the podium, mitigate some damage to those who he's racing with, knows that James Scott is the overall points leader, has put that consistency value down, and he's looking to try and do it again and again and again. But there is Dane Warren out of championship hunting at this stage, looking for just wins. His 3 wins to the name at the moment, wanting more at the moment in the 57 car, but now they start streaming towards the roller coaster, and on the brakes they go. The front 5 pretty much all nicely packed up together at this stage, happy to all run within their margins and make sure that their race is going as they want it to at this stage. But every single driver right now is trying to think of one position at this stage. Half distance coming up shortly in the next 3 laps or so, and now you start wondering here who's figured out how to save enough fuel to get a really good last stop.
Yeah, exactly right. That's going to be the main issue for these drivers. James Scott is not going to have any chance to do any such fuel saving, but as we take a look at the drivers behind, that's a move between Ethan Griggolt and I think that was Sean Linsell there in the Exto Gaming Mustang. Yes, indeed, and facing a lot of pressure here from Jordi Sinai as well in position 13, but the final stint, that's going to be dependent on what the drivers put into the car during their first stop. Some drivers might have elected to go for a short middle stint, and they're going to have to rejig that thanks to the safety car.
Exactly, and all those fuel calculations now have to be reworked because of the safety car, because of the slow moving speed they have been under, and they need that time to get the tyres back up and working. Look at Madison Down staring at the back of the Synergy Sim Racing car, potentially a future champion in Jordi Sinai if things pan out like potential would. You'd say wonder kid at the moment with Jordi Sinai on the brakes up into the Oak Tree corner, and nothing yet, but this is the place where you go out there and attack. You can see every car in that train. You got 2 of the Altus cars. Simon Feigl is one of them. You got the Andrew Gilliam behind all of those as they all try and funnel on through, but here is Mads trying to go around the outside of Jordi Sinai, trying to get the inside for the next section, and on the brakes they go. Nicely done, lovely jubbly. It's just about there. It's just about well worked.
Oh my goodness. It's our director Jay asking how did he pull that up. My thoughts exactly. Whenever I see a brake locking in these cars, it's always a big clench moment, but Madison Down managed to pull it up. And for the lead, it looks like Dane Warren has come back alive now and pressuring the back of James Scott. Probably got a leg up thanks to this guy behind them, Forzan El Nabi, right on the back of them in third.
Well, that's the hurry-up message if ever there was one at the moment after the upside-down car of one Mr. Jack Boyd. Forzan El Nabi now has been given that lifeline and wants to go out, attack this race, and try and go out there and battle the best way possible. So now we can see it here. Forzan trying to chase through the snake and now go on forward here towards the S's. This is where you need to start trying to open up the gap, but this is where Dane Warren is so strong.
Yeah, for sure. He's right on the back of James Scott through this entire section. Amazing how he is able to maintain the pace while being almost unable to see the track ahead of him. And Scott just on the verge of dipping a wheel into the grass. He's got to be careful there up in Oak Tree. The drivers will know how many incidents have happened at that corner tonight. But now they are on the back straight, and Dane Warren well within draft range. You can already see him start to gain. El Nabi too far behind to take advantage of this, but out comes Dane Warren. This could be a move for the lead, but James Scott is protecting that inside. No! Dane Warren scythes his way through back into the race lead.
Fantastic work. Dane Warren in control once again, but you know that there's a James Scott who's not going to be letting that one go in terms of this one. Has seen one mistake already from Dane Warren up at the Oak Tree and will look to try and get through. There's the stricken Jack Boyd down in pits after the tow on the back of the lorry, so to speak. But now here comes Forzan. Strike while the iron is hot, why don't we? Down to the inside. He had to make that choice late, and they're side by side behind. Altus cars going at it. Webster down the inside of Sam Blacklock.
And it looks like Webster has managed to cover off Blacklock there, and all of this battling is helping Harley Haber, who is just behind these guys. Meanwhile, further back in the field, Brett Loxton is staring at this incredible train. We're going to get a replay and see what happened to him. This is down at turn 1, and there's the 143 of Jordan Ross, and looks like he lost 3 spots in one corner, did Brett Loxton, because all of them just went by him there on the inside.
And no wonder the unicorn on the side of the car looks very, very angry. Losing 3 spots in one corner is the last thing that you would like to expect. But he'll try and keep going. He's running to a different strategy, I think, than most here in this one. So he'll just stay calm. He's racing the likes of Damian Johnstone, who's still holding on to 7th place, mind you, at this stage. Richard Hampstead, with a lot of work to do to get by, is tucked up. But Johnstone has defended the position then up into the oak tree.
Whoa.
And look at that, straight down the inside from Richard Hampstead. Oh, that is vintage Hampstead.
That's exactly what you want to see. He just dives it up the inside at Oak Tree, and Jordan Ross has taken advantage of this as well. He is now past Johnstone. See, that is, wow, look at the draft that Jordan Ross has got here. That's a fantastic run on Hampstead, but he's not going to take advantage of that. Pulling out, not worth making the move, but you can definitely tell Jordan is on the warpath here. Hampstead now back up 1 position from where he started.
Now, remember Jordan Ross had that spin at the oak tree on lap 1 after contact with Brady Myers. That will be fueling him to get back forward in this race. Forzan Elnabi is in 2nd, James Scott 3rd, but there's Cooper Webster in 4th on the back of this one now. They're trying to drop Sam Blacklock and Harley Haber here in 5th and 6th place as Brett Loxton loses another spot now to Madison down on the front stretch. So that's another little change of position that we can see happening in the mid-pack. This is all about now trying to find who's got pace, and at the moment I think it's Cooper who's got some amazing turn of pace. We look back at Johnstone here, who's now going to have mirrors full of Madison.
Yeah, mirrors full of Madison is not a place you want to be in any kind of circumstance, but Cooper Webster there running in 4th. Those tradings of positions up in the top 3 has allowed him to latch on to the back of these guys, and he's pushing very hard in that 4th spot. I want to say as well, El Nabi is starting to turn up the wick as well. He's been right on the back of Dane Warren through the first sector over the last couple of laps, so just be careful of Forzan there. He will have the fire in his belly too.
Absolutely, this has been some sensational racing over the first half, and this second half now is going to be about who can find the magic formula to pick up the win. There's many ways you can do it here. They've all got 1 stop to go. That's an Andrew Dyson around at the oak tree though, in 22nd position now he finds himself. So the Simrigs.com DPR car running into troubles as we catch it on the replay here behind Andrew Gilliam heading into the oak tree corner. How has this one gone wrong? It's tyres on the grass again. It's the same old syndrome.
Yeah, and looks like there was enough of a gap there for Dyson to get going again safely. Fortunate that he's able to at least keep going. But Damian Johnstone now is behind Madison down. The move has been made. Now he's going to be facing up against potentially more drivers behind him as the top 3 absolutely packed together. Top 4, yes, my apologies. It's incredible seeing the kind of racing we've seen here today. El Nabi, with that mistake earlier on, he's got some extra motivation now to try and take this race lead, but we know how good Dane Warren is once he's at the front of a pack.
Oh, we certainly do, and this has been crucial in terms of this race. You see the likes of, say, Dane Warren. He has been the best pound-for-pound sim racer in the world over the course of this year. You've got the likes of Forzan Elnabi, James Scott, Cooper Webster, all drivers who are knocking on that door to say we want to be the very best, and they are certainly proving that they are more than a match for Dane Warren at the moment as they funnel on to the South Bend as we catch an eye from the helicopter as we go into the right at the Oak Tree Bend, and there you can see Dane Warren getting great rotation through the corner, and he's just able to use that on the initial acceleration that gets him away before that slipstream really does come back. In terms of the fight, these front 4 have been absolutely marvellous so far in terms of this race, but there are battles up and down the order, every driver fighting for places. Jordan Ross, for example, in 8th place, he's going to have a little bit of an issue because there's an Ethan Grigol that wants a way through and won't find any at the moment. But El Nabi here in second, while James Scott can only watch he did right at the start of the race at the two who are in front.
And now I think some thoughts will be turning to preserving the tyres, preserving the fuel, and thinking about when you're going to come in for your final stop. With 20 laps to go at the end of this one, you pit from now and you will be able to get home. In fact, you were able to do that from about 7 laps ago. But the drivers certainly will want to go for that shorter final stint. The less fuel you put in at the box, the faster you're going to be, the better advantage you're going to have.
And that's key. It's all about who's saved enough fuel, who's got that margin to play with. And actually, you've also got to wonder as well, how much damage is playing into the mind of Dane Warren. He got that cop hit on the front left. There are no fast repairs in this series, so it's going to be a case of trying to see how much damage has been done from that. But it doesn't look too bad from first viewing here as we see them funnel up through the S's once again. That could be something that plays in the back of the mind of Dane Warren, that he's not got the pace to pull away, but he has the pace to keep in front.
Yeah, that's the crucial part, having the pace to keep in front, especially when you're in a battle pack like this. The driver ahead can be used as a bit of a marker for where you need to go, but you constantly have to keep an eye on your mirrors in these cars, because one slight mistake and you are falling down the order, as we've seen multiple times tonight. Dane Warren, it seems, has managed to eke out that ever so slight of a gap over Forzan, which is going to help him. But ultimately, I think if they end up coming up on traffic soon, which isn't going to happen for quite some time, that's going to be the main point where Forzan gets the advantage.
And that's going to be key. Here's Jordi Sinai, though, in the Synergy Sim Racing car. He's got Sean Linsell just in front, and he's got a combination of Altus cars just behind. One team boss being Simon Feigl will be the next worry in the rear view mirror. But now you can start seeing here how they slink through the front stretch and look towards the next section on the road. They hope to find the brakes and hit the next section of track. And, well, it's all nice and calm for the moment through turn number 1. No real corrections needed from Jordi going on through this section. Now, this is interesting. In comes Ben Christensen for the final stop. Took not much fuel at all. Corey Preston will follow into the lane, and they'll be the first to really say, we're going to the end from here.
Yeah, another driver you can say that for is, I believe, Richard Hampstead, because remember, he took that stop under the safety car initially, and he'd already taken a pit stop before that point. So it'd be interesting to see what Hampstead would do, but he'd have to do nearly 30 laps on that tank. He's not going to make it. He'd have to really fuel save in order to even get home. And oh, Jordan Ross, my goodness, almost joining the multitude of drivers that have crashed out at Oak Tree Bend, but ultimately keeping it there.
He's already in there in terms of that crash group, and he would very nearly find himself in that position once again. Jordan Ross then, 8th position, trying to keep it together, but there is Madison down, going on the long way on Ethan Grigol, a rival we have seen so many times before. Just enough room being given on the outside. Ethan's got to be careful though, because look at that, Madison down the outside to get the move done. And suddenly, Damian Johnstone thinking cookies, maybe? In comes Jordan Ross to make a stop. Now that's the first of the real game changers to pit.
All right, so that's going to be a final stint of 18 laps for Jordan. Now the top 4 are going to be looking very intently at that. They'll have their helpers and their minders in their ears telling them what's going on. They're going to have to make a decision very soon.
Absolutely, and they're going to have to start thinking here. The only good news about that pit stop is because it's so late on And I think that the short fuel stop in the middle was the case for Jordan Ross. He may be a little bit out of position compared to those he was racing against due to the fact that he's got to take more fuel than anybody else in those final stages. That's the only thought process I've got going through my mind at the moment for why to stop so early. I think a lot of drivers are going to be taking this one as late as they can. Dane Warren has half a second's worth of buffer margin at the moment, but crucially lost out in the stop to James Scott, who has been sitting behind again, saving fuel again.
Yeah, and Dane Warren has spent the majority of his time in this stint way out in the front with no draft to help him save fuel. So that's going to play into James Scott's hands potentially. Forzan as well with the draft that he is getting. Meanwhile, we take a brief look at Harley Haber and Sam Blacklock almost coming together there into the roller coaster section, but looks like Haber has managed to protect that position for now.
P5 at this point in time as we take a look at these vehicles. Going to make their push over towards the front stretch once again. 1, 2, 3 and 4 out on pace. Now I wonder whether Cooper Webster's feeling slightly held up here by James Scott. They're 1.1 seconds back now all of a sudden. 7/10 off of Fords and El Nabi. And now you start wondering here who's coming in. Brett Loxton's the answer, in from 11th.
All right, and Brett ultimately not quite pulling it up there in the box in time. So that's going to be an issue for him. But as more drivers continue to swing their way into the pits, there's leaving these 4 up here at the top, wondering, okay, all right, what are we going to do?
Well, it's a waiting game. It's all about that one in front, Dane Warren. Someone's either got to rock the apple cart and make the stop, or someone else has got to look around and go, well, we're trying to get into a range here. We've got to work out when we want to pit. They want to pit in such a way that they can get ahead and they have enough laps that they can defend the place. That's the only issues that I think these drivers are having. They are nice in terms of their stops. They all came in around a similar time within a lap of each other. They've been saving the fuel. And if you're going to be a gambling person, you'd say that on an ideal race, they'd be coming in about a lap, 2 laps time. But I have a feeling they're going to stretch this one out. Maybe lap 36 could be the place where it all comes together, but this all depends on who wants to do what on strategy. Remember, Harley Haber stayed out the longest of anyone on that opening stint, maybe took a lot of fuel in the stop, and might have the shortest stop of anybody come the end.
Yeah, so keep an eye on Harley Haber when you get into the dying laps of this race, especially considering that Haber's managed to secure that 5th place from Sam Blacklock now. He's certainly on his way for potentially a podium finish if things work out properly. He is quite some way behind the top 4 at the moment, but as you say, that early stint, a very long first stint, might work in his favor as Johnstone now brings it into the pits. And this has been a great drive from Johnstone in this race, I have to say.
Absolutely it has, and there's another T word that comes into play, traffic. If they pit and they come out in traffic, they're going to be in trouble. They're going to have spotters with them. They're going to be working out when's the right time to pit. So traffic could be something that does play a factor here in this one. Drivers looking to try and come out of the pits then and have a good run. Robin Kirk has come in and made the final stop as well as he's gone on through. But Dane Warren here in control of this one at the front of the field. And it's very much now evenly spread gap. 6/10, 7/10 now the gap. Dane Warren starting to try and flex a little bit. Say, come on, keep up, buddy.
Yeah, that's it. Got to keep up. The main issue in the middle stages of a race, finding that consistency, finding the grip wherever you need to. So just outside the top 30 then, Loxton and Johnstone, as we see Warren continuing his very calm driving there in the lead of the race. He has not put a single foot wrong so far, touch wood. I'm not going to put the commentator's curse on you now, Dane. It looks like quite a nice run here into the roller coaster section, and coming up to pit entry as well. Is he going to make that jump?
Well, we will be waiting to see at this stage. Down the hill they go, through the right of the hog pen, and now on towards another lap. Any takers for any takers? No. All 4 stay out then for the time being. They're all going to try and work their strategy to their very, very limits as they move on forward in this race. This is a technical race, you feel. There's no real factor that says one driver's better than any of the others in the front four. It's just a pure strategy game. This is one of those awkward chess games at a very difficult stages. I believe Jordi Sinai may have just decided to take the call down onto the lane, and others in the mid-pack here might be making that call, and they certainly do. Zach Hanlin dives down onto the lane, and I think this is going to be very interesting. There goes Hanlin ahead of Jordi Sinai, so that's key. That's Brady Myers going through, and those drivers in 13th, 14th, they're coming out ahead of Jordan Ross here.
They certainly are, and through goes Brady Myers on the inside of Hobbo, and Kurt Stenberg trying his best to take advantage as well, but nothing's going to happen for Stenny there. Holds on very nicely. So we take another look at Tom Freer. No, not quite. Not quite. We'll have to wait and see here on the modem simulation replay. Oh, well, yeah, there we go. Yep, off at NASCAR Bend once again. That's another one of the turns around this circuit that can very easily catch drivers out.
I thought he already mowed that bit of grass, but there's a difference there in terms of this. Now, looking at James Scott here in third place, trying to get by Forza El Nabi, just sitting, waiting, saving the fuel, doesn't have to do anything too untoward, knows what he needs to do, and I think Altus are best place here. They can even use one of their drivers as a dummy runner, some would say, to force the pack, and there's Harley Haber running wide, and that is Sam Blacklock straight back through again.
Wow. Excellent driving there from Blacklock to get through on him. I want to see how that move started, but it's not over yet. Haber trying to get that inside on the exit of Hogpen as we hear Cooper Webster is in the pits, the first of the top four to take their final stop. Haber trying once again on Blacklock. He goes hard on the brakes, gives Blacklock a little bit of a tap on entry and locks the brakes, but Blacklock is wise to it. He maintains the momentum and continues. So let's see what started all of that in the first place.
Well, it was a good run. It's as simple as that. Sam Blacklock got into position, using the draft down the backstretch past Madison Avenue. And you can see, pulls it over to the inside, turns to the outside here. And he had to make this one difficult, did Harley Haber. Actually brake later than one Mr. Sam Blacklock, but running wide, little tap to help as well. Sam Blacklock using the chrome horn, and that is Rubbings Racing at its finest from Sam Blacklock to get that move done. That is a brilliant overtake, if ever I saw one. So they're going to go through, and now, this is the disaster that Cooper Webster didn't want, right in the middle of traffic.
Right in the middle of traffic and down in P18 as well. So Webster right now shored up behind Luke Pink and Tom Freer, the drivers up ahead of him, as we cast our eyes back to the top three. Now, Cooper Webster and James Scott will have been in contact, and they probably would have worked out what this strategy is going to be beforehand. So I don't know if we can expect James Scott to jump in, follow his teammate into the pits, but this is the point where we're going to find out. And it looks like El Nabi is actually taking the jump here.
Cool. Wrong call, surely. You know there's traffic. Are you sure that you're going to break through all of that with the stop? That's a very, very acrimonious call, and we'll have to see whether the proof was in the pudding or not. I don't think that's the right one from Forza El Nabi. If he comes out in traffic, he's in trouble. Philip Worley, Andrew Gilliam coming by our commentary box position as we see it right now. Andrew Dyson now goes on by, and now here's the train. 12th, 13th, 14th, Purdy, Corey Shepherd on the back of that train. And there goes Forza. What a quick stop!
Excellent stop there from Forza El Nabi. 11 seconds. So you can tell that he put in the vast majority of his fuel in that first stop. That's excellent, and you can see just how far ahead of Cooper Webster it's put him.
And contact there between Ethan Grigolta, I believe that was, and Tom Freer going on through. So Luke Pink, there, going on through. So Luke Pink there with the contact as they go on through. Freer loses 2 places, but that was a brilliant stop. Now the Trans-Tasman cars go through. Cooper Webster must have taken more fuel than at the second stop because he didn't have much margin to do so. But Hampstead there with Madison down. On the brakes they go. Now, does that call Warren and Scott down into the pits? Hampstead and Madison down, running their own race in 5th and 6th. Pretty much playing best of the rest at this stage.
Yeah, we've still got to wait and see what Hampstead does, because we do think that he has to come back into the pits again, but Madison Down might just be okay. We're not quite sure. We will wait and see, but there's Dane Warren and James Scott up in the lead. They saw Cooper Webster go in. They saw Forzan El Nabi go in. Will they follow them in? No, they stay out. So this is going to be an extra short stop for Dane Warren and James Scott when it comes down to it.
Exactly, and that's the key, putting in as little fuel as possible as they all go through. And with those stop margins, Madison Down and Richard Hampstead, they will be looking at this going, well, let's work together, let's try and get through. And if we can save the stop and save coming in an extra time, they may be well best placed. There is Forzan El Nabi, and he'll have to try and get through Andrew Dyson pretty soon and start finding a way through a few vehicles here and there. And let's not forget that car number 21 in 4th position either, as we take a look at Clint Shane Smith in the Premier Racing Team AOC machine in a fight with Jordan Ross right now, trying to go on through. We've got to remember that Harley Haber was longest on the stop, had to come in during the pit stop window. I think took a whole boatload of fuel, still came out in 6th place, remember, and that could be key. Jordan Ross angling for the inside. Clint Shane Smith's nice on the brakes and left the door a little bit too far open here, and that is a freebie that will now have to be hard fought.
Yeah, well, it looks like Jordan Ross has managed to clear Clint Smith there just in time to get to NASCAR Bend, so position gained for him. And it means that Kurt Stenberg, who was behind both of them before this incident happened, it means he's going to skip away and gain himself an advantage. Meanwhile, checking back in on Sam Blacklock and Harley Haber. Both of these guys have yet to take their second pit stop. Now, they are quite some way behind Dane Warren and James Scott, just coming up to the braking zone now, while Dane Warren is going through Hogpen. So, I tell you what, this is going to be too close to call, I think, for me, as I'm seeing James Scott dips into the pits. So now it's just Dane Warren on his lonesome out at the front. Now, what is Haber and Blacklock going to do in response? They stay out for another lap.
Well, here we go. This is the crucial part of the race. Forzan's had time on the fresh tyres, and he's had relatively clean space. Outstayed the two Trans-Tasman machines, and El Nabi has had to make an overtake in this one. He's passed Andrew Dyson. Wally and Gilliam have been racing against each other as well. Here's El Nabi. Look on the right-hand side. Is there anybody coming out of the pits? No, it's clean air. It's a long mile of clean air. It's a fast lap of the race for Forzan El Nabi on a 47.3. It's a long, long hold. It's a long, long wait. And James Scott is out and away, I think, in 14th place. He is. And look at that. He's gone off the road, and through goes the car of number 37, Cooper Webster.
Okay, so that has just gone awfully for James Scott there. It was a 16-second pit stop for him. Remember, Forzan El Nabi's was 11 seconds. And that mistake from James Scott putting him behind his teammate, who we already saw had that disadvantage in traffic. So I think it's fallen apart for Altus here in the last quarter.
Well, this is really, really interesting. You've, of course, got the Trans-Tasman strategy. Can they hold on with the fuel as they nurse the car home? What's that gap between Madison Down and Forzan El Nabi? It stands at 12 seconds at the moment with 11 laps to go. So that could be something that closes down if they can hold on. Dane Warren in control of this one will now be looking at this going, oh, they stopped short, did they, with Forzan El Nabi? Now there's work to do. There's even more questions to be asked. Can even Forzan El Nabi make it home and dry if he's running purple lap times and has taken fuel less than anybody else, as in comes the race leader?
Alrighty, here we go. This is where things are going to get decided. Blacklock and Haber, are they going to follow him in? Yes, they do. And it looks like Harley Haber deciding at the last second to follow Blacklock in as the TTR pair of Hampstead and Down cruise on by, and that's going to be the lead for them. Dane Warren, stopped at the end of pit lane, still has yet to get going again, and it looks like El Nabi's managed to get by.
Yeah, just like that. So they think they've gone long on the fuel. They think they've got the magic number. Then here, Warren waits, finally gets the cue to go. That's his brother, Ethan Warren, going through. Corey Shepherd side by side, so they come out and away.
Man.
And Dane Warren is behind both of them. So now this is really interesting here on the numbers. I think it's been short-filled, potentially, here by Forza and Elnabi to get a gap, to get some momentum, but they haven't accounted here for Hampstead and Madison down.
That's exactly right. So this could go either way now. We've seen that the likes of James Scott and along with Cooper Webster, the Altus pair, majorly disadvantaged in that stop, but I tell you what, Elnabi has certainly pulled off some surprises in the past, and United definitely have a good strategy team behind all of that, so maybe this is a gamble that they're comfortable with.
All of these cars in front of Forza and Elnabi have pitted twice. That includes Ethan Grigalt, Andrew Gilliam and Philip Worley. They're all trying to run the tank and get themselves over the line. So now this becomes the case of Forzan having to run the gauntlet inside the final 10 laps to get himself home and away. He's been one of the fastest drivers in this, and you can see already he's onto the back of the simrigs.com DPR car there just ahead of him. So Forzan's got to get through everyone.
Yeah, that he does, and seeing some passing happen in the middle of traffic, it looks like there might be a little bit of an issue there for Dane Warren, because Corey Shepherd was sliding all the way through roller coaster, and Warren had to take the long way around. This is that classic traffic issue rearing its head again for these race leaders, and I think Elnabi, with the times he's been setting, is hoping that those troubles continue, but it looks like Cooper Webster and James Scott now at the front of the train and making the pass there on Ethan Warren.
Nice and easy for my teammates. No love lost there as they go on through. Dane Warren diving down the inside, trying to pick up a place. And has he found that one? Yes, he does. So straight through on Blake Purdy. Nothing you can do as they go on through. As there's an issue for Greg Galt, then in 7th place. So what has happened there for 117? He's dropping down the timing sheet. That could be the technical variety of dropping down the timing sheet. It looks like it is.
Yeah, well, that's going to be a big shame for Ethan Griggold. It looks like he is indeed gone. So, very unfortunate as Ethan goes to let his brother by just before the S's. That is a huge shame for Ethan, but it seems like drivers like Ethan and like Forzan, they have the pace, they have the skill, but their hardware just does not want to cooperate. And Elnabi now right in the draft of this DPR machine of Philip Worley. Is he going to make the move here? He's got the run, he's got the fresher tyres, and it looks like Worley just lifting off ever so slightly to make it nice and easy for Elnabi as he continues in his pursuit of the cars ahead.
Next up, Andrew Gilliam. Now this is key. Elnabi's got 10 seconds on the rest of the pack as Webster and Scott starting to change positions then out on circuit. Some side-by-side as well. That's Harley Haber through on Corey Shepherd, gaining a place. You can tell it's Harley Haber. It's got Dunlop on the front like Mr. Bean did on Mr. Bean's holiday. But now you can see how every car starts to battle. There's Sam Blacklock there, as we see right live coming down through. He's definitely not having too much fun. 19th place at the moment, was right up there, now not anymore. So he's got work to do to get himself back through in this field. But keep an eye on that gap. It's 10.5 seconds. I don't think Forzan catches if they go on through. Hampstead and Madison, if the fuel's good, they've got the victory.
Yeah, looks like it. Might be a TTR 1-2 as Webster just taps the back of Dane Warren there in turn 1. We'll get a modem simulation replay of that particular one. It looks like a pass and some contact at the apex. So through goes Dane Warren, but pushes a little outside and just pushes Webster a little wide. So move done there, but looks like another case of Rubbins race and no harm done.
Yeah, no harm at all there. Dane Warren had that one done nicely. Now here's the next question for the Trans-Tasman drivers. Who do they want up front? I'd say give Madison the win here for the championship. He's in a much better position than Richard Hampstead is. Hampstead has missed a lot more races than Madison. Madison, I think, has only missed 2 over the course of the season. So now they've got to work this one out. And just on cue, down to the inside, thoughts of it, but no, Hampstead going for it. Oh, teammates coming together slightly there as they go on through. Richard Hampstead is not giving this one up to Madison down. You're working for it, Sunshine.
Oh, I love this. No team orders at Trans-Tasman Racing. They very much value having a good, hard race with each other, even if it means losing a little bit of time. So probably just a little mistake there from Hampstead, and Madison down just pushing very hard in at the mid-corner. But the cloud still hangs over Richard Hamstead's fuel tank. Does he have enough to make it home?
Does Madison. He feels a little bit better, a little bit more comfortable with that fuel going forward, being stuck behind Hamstead all this time. He's saving a lot more as they go on through. Through goes Forza El Nabi up into third place. He's passed Andrew Gilliam, who's had a very good drive of his own. He's doing the same thing, as is Philip Worley here, who's currently in fifth place. And now, if Philip Worley can hold on to that P5, not only is it a career best, but I would say that is DPR effectively saying that they are there and they are a major player in the game at the moment. TTR 1 and 2 at the moment, but look at this. They're nose to tail on lap 41 of 48.
Now this is a very intriguing battle. It's something that we've seen many times before. Madison Down and Richard Hamstead fighting for the same piece of racetrack, but this season has been the first time we've seen them do that as teammates. They've traditionally been rivals from different sim racing teams. Richard Hamstead coming in this year to Trans-Tasman Racing after TTL Esports folded at the end of last year. And there goes Madison Down out to the outside line. Does Hamstead give it up? I don't think he is. He's pushing very hard. That's a big slide, and this is a proper battle between the Trans-Tasman teammates. Guess who this is helping? Forzan El Nabi in third.
And the more that they battle like this, the more they're going to be using up those fuel tanks, the more they're going to be putting themselves out of position to save and get themselves home. This is a real hindrance. That gap now under 9 seconds here at the front of the field. And now they go over 7 laps of racing. Look at turn 1 from Madison Down. This time, is there a defense from one Mr. Richard Hamstead? The two teammates going at it together, and they're going to go panel to panel as they go through turn 2. Lean on each other as you do. And after the horseshoe to NASCAR Ben, Hamstead's there on the inside. He's going to run him out of road on the outside there. He's got the place back.
Oh my goodness, and Madison pushing very hard and giving Hamstead a good whack to the rear as well. Are these guys are teammates? What's going on?
If I knew that, I'd be a psychic and I'd make millions of dollars. But look at this. It's all closing down. It's now 7.5 seconds. They've got to get their heads reined in. They're thinking of the small picture. They've got to think of the macro, not the micro.
Yeah, exactly right. I hope that they manage to sort themselves out soon, because El Nabi is certainly coming. They don't want too many repeats of that little Sector 1 adventure, but Madison Down continues to push his teammate there, bumper to bumper through Oak Tree, and he's got the draft again down the back straight.
Wow, just wow. That's all you need to say about this at the moment. And now you get a Motum Simulation replay, ladies and gentlemen. What has happened here? It's a car off. It's a Zach Hanlon off then. So one of the Altus cars running into big troubles. We'll get a little look at it then. How has this one all happened? As one vehicle went off there in the background of shot. And that would have been the Zuva car. So that is Brett Loxton, who's had a moment. And then, he's just gone straight on. Missed the braking zone. And it doesn't matter how much you try and stop it. Just about avoids Armco.
Well, good job there from Hanlon to avoid that. We're staying on the replay because something's happened to Kobe Jones in the S's. You see Thomas Hins there, our split 2 winner up ahead, missing that rear bumper of his. But what happened to Kobe Jones? Hins getting very close there with, I think that's Michael Taliancic up ahead. But Kobe down at Oak Tree, I guess this must have happened at. A little bit of a slide there on the entry, gets it rounded up. But, yeah, there we go. Luke Pink, and oh my goodness, Sam Blacklock as well getting involved.
I think you have to say it was a bit late to close the door from one Mr. Kobe Jones there. Luke Pink had a vital chance to go down the inside. Oh no! Sam Blacklock straight off with Luke Pink. Both of them into the fence.
Oh, that's a big incident there. Looks like it's continued on from what we last saw in the replay, and Blacklock, big facepalm moment, shaking his head. He is extremely unhappy with that turn of events, and it looks like he might be too damaged to continue. Let's see what happened.
Well, let's have a look. Coming out to the final corner, a good run from Sam Blacklock. Now, I want to go on board and have a look at this one, see exactly how this plays out from Sam Blacklock's perspective. You can see to the middle of the track they go, and it's a look to the inside. Pink defends it. Blacklock's not left himself enough room to get along. He's just ploughed straight into the back of him. That's on Blacklock.
Yeah, I think from Blacklock's perspective, he would think that Pink switched to the inside too late, but I think that's a racing incident more than anything. But Sam Blacklock still out on the circuit there. His car is dead. We might get another safety car here.
This is late in the race, and a safety car brings everyone back in close together again. This is the worry that they've got. Hampstead and Madison down, nose to tail still. 5 laps to go. Is there even enough time for a safety car? Will they let him go here early on? Look at the inside then from Madison down as he goes on through. Blacklock's given the all clear to escape as he goes on through. Contact more. Hampstead's going to have to try and fight this one again on the inside of turn 2 to 3. But Madison here on the outside has the overlap. Is this going to be a rolls again? Same place, slide from Hampstead. Mads has finally got it.
Oh, goodness me. And hopefully for him, he's able to keep it, because Hampstead was absolute stalwart in defending that position. He did not want to give that up. But ultimately, that's the way it goes. Madison down now leads, and with all of the fuel that he would have been saving in the slipstream of Hampstead, he's probably in a good position to keep going until the end, hopefully.
5.6 seconds though, that's the margin back with 4.5 laps to go in this race. So now Forzan trying everything to close up. He's hoping that Hampstead's got a little something more to fight back with, has an opportunity to go and pick up that move, pick up that position, pick up that one extra place that's available. Dane Warren also closing in on gaining places. Andrew Dyson's going to be under threat. He's 2 seconds the gap there right now, so everything going on here. And now you can see James Scott following in tow. Now this is key for James Scott's championship. He's got to follow Dane like his life depends on it.
Absolutely. If James Scott wants to keep those championship hopes alive, I mean, he's already going to have a deficit to El Nabi, I think, coming out of this round when you take the drop round into account. So it is all about just damage limitation now for James Scott. It's a shame for him, though, because he was fighting for those top 3 positions. If it weren't for that pit stop, we'd be looking at a very different race. And here's Cooper Webster and Harley Haber right together on track. Remember, Haber was battling with Blacklock before, but now he has got the Cooper Webster machine right in front of him, suffering some technical issues as well. But Harley Haber could break into the top 9 here.
Ended on the inside into turn number 1. Indiana Jones, slightly defender at the lost corner. Haber's going to give him a bump. He's going to try and push him through, and he's pushed him off. And that was always going to be tough there through that section. I think that the technical issues haven't helped with that one. It's going to be very tough for the stewards to adjudicate on any incident like that. But gap down, 4.7, 4 laps to go. It's a second a lap right now. In fact, it's a redress from Harley Haber, but crucially, that gap, 4.7, has stayed the same to Richard Hampstead. So Hampstead's falling back. Madison's still got something left in the tank to use. So I think Forzan's having to fuel save as well here.
Yeah, looks like that might be the case. You did say before that he might have short-filled. Well, I'm going to very closely monitor El Nabi when he comes up to the end of the back straight here. We'll see if he clutches it coming into the braking zone, and that will be the telltale sign whether or not he is on the mad fuel save. Very dirty front of that United Sim Sports Holden Commodore. It shows you just how much drama and strife El Nabi has been through, and I'm not hearing any lift or clutching at the end of the straight. So I think El Nabi might have just lost a bit of time some other way.
Well, that certainly seems to be the case. We've got ourselves 3 laps to go here at the wonderful VIR. We were at Mosport last time out, and it was a brilliant race there. But now 1.1, Madison down. He knows he's just got to hold on here and get this one over the line. It's 3 laps to make it happen. Richard Hampstead there behind as the rear gunner has to be in second place. Forzan and Nabi, they're in 3rd position. Then you got Gilliam 4th, Worley in 5th, a career best. And he is running magical lap times here, is Philip Worley. He could actually challenge Andrew Gilliam for 4th place.
Worley's last lap time, 49.215. It was a 49.307 for Andrew Gilliam. So Worley just chipping away at that gap, and he did make a couple of mistakes there in the first sector, which mean that he's probably not going to gain as much on this lap. But nonetheless, I reckon the late race form here from Philip Worley has been nothing short of spectacular, and I would agree this is DPR's chance to say, hey, we can compete at the top in Split 1.
Absolutely we can. Forza Nanabi's trying everything, but I think old Father Time has just knocked on the door and said, you are running out, my friend. There is not much that Forzan can do to close this down. Richard Hampstead's got nothing left compared to Madison. Remember, he's got a worse fuel tank situation than what the 77 Trans-Tasman car has, and this has been a case of some tactical nuance, which I don't think anybody had really thought about. That safety car came at the right time, it seems, at this stage, but there's not long left to go, and keep an eye on 6th place here, because Dane Warren is well best placed to attack Andrew Dyson. Look at this down the back stretch, past Mads Avenue, and now looking to try and get through to the next section, and just like that, straight on through, and now look at this, follow straight in, why don't you, James Scott? Can't quite.
My goodness, that was incredibly close. Nearly snapped into the back there of the number 41, but man, very well held nonetheless. Andrew Gilliam, meanwhile, seems like he stretched the gap out slightly to Philip Worley. It is 0.6 of a second at the line.
It was up at 1 second earlier on in this one, so it's coming down. Oh, big opposite lock then from Worley, trying to slow the machine. Does just about enough, and he is really motoring here. Andrew Gilliam's not got 4th place under lock and key. Philip Worley is trying to put on the race of his life at the moment and knows it here with 2 laps to go. It's all or nothing at the moment. You go big or you go home. All these sim racers are at home. They've got to go big.
Exactly. They got to go as big as they possibly can. Worley's first sector that time was pretty cool, actually. He managed to gain ever so slightly on Gilliam through there, and remember, Gilliam is carrying a bit of damage to his front end, so that might be affecting his lap time slightly. But you see just how hard they continue to push through the S's, even on these old tyres, even at the very end of this race. Speaking of, we're going to come up on white flag soon for Madison Down as, oh, goodness me, Andrew Gilliam. I feared that he would join the long list of drivers to have gone off track at Oak Tree, but just avoiding it.
Well, that's how hard he's having to push right now, because that is close. Hampstead back within a second, though, as they get themselves towards that final lap of this race. 250 kilometres worth of racing are soon to be completed. Some brilliant work up and down the order here from so many drivers. A strategy game that's been good. There is Harley Haber with a lot of damage. We'll catch a Motum Simulation replay. He was fighting for that top 10 here, and he's gone straight on at the Oak Tree, going all shades of off. And that is not the mistake you want with 2 to go if you're Harley Haber. Bang! Hard into the tyres and loses a handful of places for his troubles as we start the final lap here, and the battles continue. Look at this now. This is Dyson under pressure here, because here's James Scott needing a place here for the championship to give him a buffer going into enduro season. Down on the inside, has he got enough to go and really work it here? And no, it's going to be fought by Dyson here in the simrigs.com DPR car. He's going to have the inside for 2 and the inside for 3 as well, and he's got the line now all of a sudden. James Scott's got to drive clever here. He's thinking down at turn 4. He dives at turn 4, locks it up at turn 4, forces him off at turn 4, why doesn't he? And he'll come back on track and lose the place. A slowdown penalty will have to be administered there to one Mr. Andrew Dyson if he hasn't already. That was a little bit naughty. There is the front 2 though at the moment. That's Madison Down at the front. There's no fuel issues at the moment. I'm hearing nothing going wrong here. There's Forza Nanabi in 3rd, a bridge too far at the moment. It's all downhill from here though, and Madison easy does it from this point onwards. Built the gap, lovely, stayed quiet through the entirety of the race. Never at any stage looked like he was the fastest driver in this field, but what he did on strategy, what Trans-Tasman did with tactical nuance, was nothing short of sensational. Through the roller coaster for the final time, and now find yourself away towards that start-finish line. This is a real kick in the teeth for everybody else in this field, because Madison Down has gone big brains. He's outthought everyone. Madison Down's out of fuel coming to the line, and has he got it over the line? You bet he and has. Madison Down wins at VIR.
And he did it with absolutely nothing to spare. Andrew Gilliam manages to hold off Philip Worley for 4th, and Dane Warren comes home in 6th place. Andrew Dyson is going to make it 2 DPR machines in the top 10. That's a fantastic result for that team. We still got to wait to see how it works out here between Jordan Ross and Michael Taliancic. And it looks like Tally not far up enough to get the move done and break into the top 15, but my goodness, what a strategy run from Trans-Tasman Racing. They even took us by surprise.
We looked at it, they were way down the order after the pit stop cycle with the safety car with an upside down Jack Boyd, and I think Gone Rogue Motorsports will be getting a little share of the champagne when they get themselves over to Victory Road after that huge technical failure there that we saw of Jack Boyd's wheel. There's Jordi Sinai coming over the line, but what can you say about Madison Down? You count him out of a race and he comes back and wins it. You never stop Madison Down. He's a 10-time official series champion for a reason, Reese.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like he didn't actually run out of fuel just before the line. I think he was just coasting to make it a formation finish for Trans-Tasman Racing. I mean, if you're going to do it in style, as Madison Down has done for those 10 times in the official series.
Absolutely, and it's another wonderful win that we see, and this championship continues to amaze. It's a sensational race here at Virginia International Raceway, and this is why the drivers choose it, because it pulls out a showcase of the immortal ones as they go on through. Madison Down picks up the win by 4/10 in a form finish with Richard Hampstead there in second. They fought amongst themselves and had a real hot go at each other, but ultimately Madison worked it around the outside, got it done on Richard Hampstead. Fortin Elnabi tried everything. He short-filled the car slightly, gets himself to the line, but he was 3 seconds short. 3rd place only. Andrew Gilliam picks up 4th with a career best for Philip Worley, a driver of the day candidate if ever I saw one, getting a first ever top 5 finish for DPR. Dane Warren gets 6th place after all of that, and there'll be questions about how much fuel was put in the car, same as James Scott in 7th place, with Andrew Dyson finishing in 8th, Cooper Webster coming out with 9th place with a few issues, but Blake Purdy rounding out the top 10. That was incredible as we look to 11 through 20.
Indeed we do. Ethan Warren started in 10th, but has to settle for 11th place at the end of this one. Harley Haber had broken into the top 10, but that crash at Oak Tree with just a couple of laps to go means he has to settle for 12th. Corey Shepherd finishes in 13th place. Our Split 2 winner, Thomas Hens, definitely wearing quite a few battle scars, started in 28th and halves the position numbers to get 14th. Jordan Ross in 15th, with Michael Taliancic coming home just behind him. Kurt Stenberg brings the Trans-Tasman number 47 home in 17th place. Brady Myers, unfortunately, with a penalty, among other things, losing out 2 positions from where he started. Brett Loxton breaking into the top 20 from outside the top 30, and the top 20 rounded out by Damian Johnstone, who was a very strong performer today.
Not a bad race from Thomas Hinds, going from Super Split 2 to 14th place. You don't often see it. Brenton Hobson, Hobbo88, gets 21st place with Zach Hanlon behind him. And you got Kenneth Latter there as part of the Exto Gaming team in 23rd. Not quite Mark 1 anymore. Sean Linsell there in 24th overall. Simon Feigl, team boss of Altus, is 25th, with Clint Shane Smith for the Premier Racing team is 26th. Jordi Sinai, Michael Schreier, Kobe Jones had a very big adventure. He's 29th. Luke Pink rounds out 30.
It's Robin Kirk who comes home in 31st from 37th, and we really get into the drivers that had big problems here. Corey Preston coming home in 32nd. Good to see that he saw the finish, but unfortunately had some comings together throughout that race, as did Ben Christensen and Darren Lobb, the last drivers to actually finish the race. And then we get into retirement territory. This is heartbreak. Sam Blacklock and Ethan Grigg-Galt both out after running very strongly in the top 10. Tom Freer and Jake Maloney also retiring. Jared Filsell electing not to continue, 26 laps down, and with 2 drive-through penalties thanks to breaking the rules in qualifying. Not the race that the reigning champion would have wanted. And finally, our last car, Jack Boyd, who ended up upside down.
Absolutely, and that did not work well for Jack Boyd, who went on a roller coaster ride. But we do have drivers here waiting for interview, and well, first and foremost, we'll bring in Madison Down into the conversation. And there are a lot of parallels that you can drive from this race win, Madison, with 2019, I believe it was, Mosport. So a lot that can come in, strategy being at the forefront for your race today. Just talk us through it and the range of emotions from where you started to where you finished.
Yeah, what a crazy race. First half of the race was probably one of the worst Scops races I've ever driven. Got a pretty average start, put it off the road, missed my pit box. Pretty much did everything wrong. But, that early mistake kind of led me into a different strategy than what we were probably planning for. So that early pit stop and then that safety car towards the end was really the way that we won that, and just bloody awesome to get a 1-2 for TTR as well. That was such a good fight with Richard Hempstead towards the end.
Absolutely. We talk about no team orders at Trans-Tasman. We were thinking maybe that Hampstead would pull aside and let you have some points to fight harder in the championship with the drop rounds against Forza and El Nabi, but you had to work for it, and work for it hard you did. Was there ever a concern in terms of the way that you were battling, how much time you were losing, how aggressive and forceful you two were being, that you may have fallen into the clutches of El Nabi come the end?
Absolutely. I think I think everybody else in our team Discord was telling us not to fight and to watch Forzan, and we had to make sure we were doing the lap speed that he wasn't going to catch us on those green tires. And I think Richard and I stayed silent the whole time and chose to ignore that advice. But in the end, it all worked out. It was a really good fight, and it's been a long time actually since I've had a battle that closely with Richard. So really cool to have the Virtual Racing School car up the front, and also for that to be on the Virtual Racing School data pack set that anybody can download. So the car was a rocket ship tonight. So happy with how the team worked together on the set, and basing off the VRS set, just an awesome result.
Well, it's the perfect time to pick up a victory, because a 1-2 like this cements Trans-Tasman as the team to beat right now. You're looking at Enduros coming up. It's Phillip Island, it's Imola, it's following on from that at Mount Panorama Bathurst. Surely now you've got to start thinking a team of yourself and Richard Hampstead, for example, could work wonders. But what's the composition going to be looking like for Trans-Tasman heading into Enduros?
We haven't really even thought about it. It's kind of crept up on us. We need to see who can make what races. Obviously, there's some people in the championship hunt, some people not. So we need to try and play our cards right and make sure we've got as many strong cars as we can. Obviously, there's a bit of commercial stuff to work out as well with sponsorships on the cars and whatnot. So it's more than just the mates and who's going to team up pace wise. There's that stuff to about as well. So we'll have a look at it. We don't have too long to think about it. We'll have to get those pairings sorted, and keep an eye on that on our page in the next probably week.
Well, speaking of commercial, shout out sponsors, anyone you'd like to thank for your victory at this wonderful circuit.
Just Virtual Racing School for me. They bloody awesome service. The setup tonight was fantastic that we worked on, and that, as I said, that's available in the data pack, and they support so many series around the world, including this one with naming rights sponsorship. So big thanks to them. Also, Bianti Model Cars as well. They came on a couple of rounds ago on all our cars, as well as primary on Richard. So awesome to have our two main sponsors up there fighting on the broadcast tonight for first and second, and get that result.
Well, no worries at all. Madison Down elated with victory here today. Richard Hampstead came home with second for a Trans-Tasman 1-2, stood by with Reese Gardner.
Indeed, he is. Welcome to the commentary box, Richard. It's last time we spoke to you, I believe, was back last round at Mosport, but it's another podium for you in this 250k at Virginia. Seemed like the strategy was almost not going to work in your favor. We thought that you weren't going to be able to make it home, considering how early you pitted, but it seems like you guys were able to eke out the gas towards the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I wasn't sure when we made the call either. So a big shout out to Andrew Fraser, who's been spotting for us tonight. Also, I think Madison was pretty quick to realize that was going to be the way to go. But I just sort of blindly followed their advice and took the plunge. And it wasn't actually too bad at the end there. So I think I probably could have even used a little bit more fuel just with how much the tires went off and how hot the track was. So it actually wasn't too bad. And then obviously when Madison got past me and I had his draft, it wasn't too bad to get home at all.
What kind of communication was going on between you two at the time when those moves were being made? Because we up here in the commentary box sort of had some trepidation in our voices, because it's never nice to see teammates battling really hard and getting into each other. But obviously, you and Madison very comfortable racing around each other from your years of experience.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think you've got to remember, like, Madison and I have sort of been racing each other for almost 10 years, so we've sort of got a pretty good sort of sixth sense, I think, for what the other guy's going to do, which certainly helps. But yeah, there wasn't a lot of communication between us. There were definitely our teammates telling us to stop because we were going to let Forzan catch up. But yeah, well, fortunately or unfortunately, Madison was able to get past me quite quickly, and then it wasn't too much of a drama keeping the 1-2.
Well, it's still a great result for you guys. 1-2. It's the best result possible for Trans-Tasman, and it's certainly going to give you a good points haul towards the championship. Despite missing a couple of rounds here and there, Richard, it still looks like you're going to be competing well in the top 10.
Yeah, possibly. I haven't really looked at things like drop rounds or anything like that, but it's been a good last 3 rounds. I think I've been on the podium every round at least. I think I missed one at Mosport, but no, it's been good. I think the strategy probably flattered my pace tonight, but yeah, I think I'll work a little bit more on that next round at Phillip Island.
Well, we hope that we can speak to you again there before we let you go, Richard. Anyone that you'd like to thank from your position here in second place?
Yeah, big shout out obviously to Be Anti-Model Cars. They come on board with us a couple of rounds ago. So shame I wasn't able to get them their sort of first win as a primary sponsor. But yeah, thanks to them coming on board. Obviously, big thanks to Virtual Racing School as well. I think, as Madison mentioned, we were pretty much just on the set that's publicly available through that this round as well. So and also big shout out to Madison, who really sort of put together the setup itself too.
Well, there you go. Richard Hamstead, second place. And now, Sperry, it's time to talk to the third place man, Forzan El Nabi.
Well, absolutely. But before we do, just want to say that it's been an absolutely mega turnaround, actually, for the Trans-Tasman team, who didn't look like they were anywhere heading before Watkins Glen. But since then, they've put on an eclectic turn of pace, which has put them right exactly where they need to. Forzan, though, from United joins us in third place overall. And Forzan, it looked like for all the world that you had the right strategy, came in for the final stop, 10 seconds on the drivers you were racing against. It looked like for all the world it was yours, but then it seems like someone managed to out-strategy you.
Yeah, pretty much. Hit the nail on the head. Yeah, I was pushing pretty hard the last stint, and I think staying out that last safety car was probably the right way to go. But for me, I think I chose a strategy and I stuck to it, and I think if I had this race again, I probably wouldn't do anything differently. It's just that the different strategy won today, and yeah, just big congrats to them for getting that one, and yeah, we'll look forward to next round, I guess.
There was a lot of close quarters racing in the early to mid stages. Yourself, Dane Warren, who looked incredibly quick all race long. The likes, of course, of Cooper Webster and James Scott were with you for the majority of the race as well. So how difficult was it just to know where everybody was in terms of that race, knowing that you always had yourself mirrors full behind, looking at being in the mirrors of the driver in front?
Yeah, it's pretty hard, especially with this build of the car. Once you're behind the car, you get like massive aero wash, and it's pretty hard just to keep a straight car when you're behind someone. I think I was faster than Dane, and I think James he had pretty good pace as well, but I think I was the fastest car out of those three. But yeah, I knew Dane wouldn't give it up too easily, so what I decided to do is just fuel save behind him until I decided to pit, and yeah, ultimately that worked, and yeah, I came out much more ahead in front of Dane, so that was all good. But like I said, I think just the different strategy was the better option today, but yeah, not much more I could do from my side.
Well, in terms of your side now moving forward, you're going to need a bit of help from a teammate. It looks like the most logical team would be yourself and Harley Haber, but that's, of course, to be judged over at a later stage. But you're heading to a point in time now where you've got yourself big victories in endurance races before. Do you feel like you're best equipped with United to put yourself in that place to try and really capitalise on these 3 endurance events?
Yeah, I think most likely I will be with Harley, but we'll have to just double check on that one. We've raced together obviously a few times in other series with great success, so that's always a good thing, knowing you got a co-driver with who drives the same type of setup and whatnot. So yeah, I think me and Harley's obviously the obvious choice, but yeah, we'll see what we do with that. But yeah, enduro should be good.
Well, it should be really good. Before we let you go, Forsan, shout out sponsors, anyone you'd like to thank.
Yeah, just like to thank my team, United. Just like to thank Chris and Harley as well for working on the setup. Just Valvoline to Ezy Finance and Parramatta Isuzu Ute. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, there we have it. Forsan Elnabi, 3rd place overall, and take no credit away from him. He drove an absolutely fabulous race here today in terms of this one. But Reese, final thoughts as we take a step away from Virginia. We're going back to Australia. We're going back to Phillip Island. We're going to Victoria, and we're looking at Enduro season.
We certainly are, and I'm looking forward to it. 500 kilometers of racing around Phillip Island is the next round of the championship. And I just think, look out for Trans-Tasman Racing. Ever since Watkins Glen, they've really shown that they're back after we thought that we might never see a Trans-Tasman car near the top of a SCOPS field again. Can't wait to see what Down and Hampstead do in the Enduros.
Absolutely, and well, for more of that, you can check out the iRacing Esports Network to find more endurance racing. If you love all the racing that goes on from not just us at SimSpeed TV, but RaceSpot TV, Apex Racing TV, the Global Sim Racing Channel, Podium Esports, LSR TV, then you can have this big old look. A like, a share, subscribe. It goes a long way for this channel, and improving its metrics will, of course, help improve the sim racing sphere entirely. But a massive thanks has to go to the Virtual Racing Schools, the title sponsor. You got 2 Ezy Finance, Oceanic Sim Racing, who have organised everything, and Motum Simulations, who have been on the replay. From Reese Gardner, who's been alongside me, from Jake Kennedy on the cameras, I've been Jake Sperry, and well, Virtual Racing School V8SCOPS 2020 has been a roller coaster of emotions, a championship that keeps on turning. You never know how to solve the Rubik's Cube, because once you do, once you think that you've got everything all figured out, it's time for a bit of 4D chess. The strategy was a masterclass. They completely dismantled the field. Trans-Tasman are in rampant form, and this may just be the renaissance of that 2018 where they took over Australian sim racing by storm. We'll see you for the Enduros at Phillip Island.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside, both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my god! Oh! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, here we go! Oh no!
That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?